Oh, we're live. What's up, dude? 4 seconds before I said anything. I'm so sorry. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Full Field Read. It's me, Frankie's Film. We got introduce yourself, my co-host.
Robby NFL. You can find all my work over at Robby_NFL over on Twitter. Again, everything I do for the Let's Talk Broncos YouTube channel, website, everything. This is going to be a great episode. I need all you guys to lock in right now.
And then we're here
Lock the
with
fuck
Matt,
in.
the wonderful fellow member of Talk Broncos podcast, works with Mario on the Altitude Adjustment podcast. Former coach himself, the one, the only, Patrick Chiotti.
I love the DJ drop. No,
Yeah,
thanks
I
for.
honestly. Sorry,
Go ahead.
finish what you were saying.
Oh, I was just gonna say thanks for having me on. Breaking down film is just one of the many aspects of being a coach, but like this is probably the best two people. If you're not following either of these dudes, like these are two of the best to ever do it, hands down. I'm just happy to be in the presence, to be honest.
Well, if that's not a way
We
to
love you,
start a
Pat.
show, I don't know what is.
Mm.
Today we're going through, I think I counted up, I think it's 24 total clips. We're not
Yes,
going
sir.
through all like 70 something plays on offense because we'd be here until, probably 11
Tomorrow.
p.m. my time. I'm not going to do the time zone math because I'm horrible at it for the other guys. But we're here. We've got 24 plays. Anything we want to discuss before? You know what, Patrick? Ask that question before that you just asked in the pregame lobby, if you will.
I mean, after watching this game, I came away. Obviously, it's only week 2, right? But I came away from this game thinking like, fuck, there's a lot of holes still in this offense. And remembering back to our conversations during the preseason, it was like, man, like we were pretty happy to have the wide receiver weapons that we did. We were pretty happy. That Javonte Williams was back healthy, and maybe a little excited to see year 2 of this run offense. But it just has not gone that way so far. And maybe it'll get better, maybe it won't. But where do we think that this offense needs to change? Like, what position group are we targeting for 2025 to either add, subtract, or just change altogether? Because I don't think it's quarterback. Honestly,
I'll go first. I would really love to see this offense add just like a true underneath weapon. I've talked about it for a little bit. I feel like we don't have someone to really take advantage of the plays underneath, which I know everyone talks about. Not only do we not have someone who can really like break the tackles, but we just don't really have like a consistent target over the middle that can just run these simple in-breaking routes. Like Cortland Sutton's pretty good at the deeper in-breaking stuff, but it would be really nice if we just had someone like, not that he's the greatest person, but Rashee Rice is a great example of someone that would be a fantastic, like that type of receiver,
Yeah.
And so that would probably be my pick. But
Yeah.
Robbie, what do you think?
No, I mean, I echo everything that you said because they really don't have a guy that they can move around anywhere on the field. Like they've got their archetypes that they play in those specific locked areas of the field. Like they've got Reynolds and they've got Sutton as the glorified X now. They're done doing the Sutton in the slot experiment that they tried to do last year. They got Reynolds there and they're using Devon Villay there a little bit more as we saw week 1. They don't really have anybody that can play anywhere and make plays anywhere. And especially in today's NFL with the way defenses play, you need that. You cannot have somebody out on the field where the defense knows, okay, so he's here. He only runs X, Y, and Z from this spot. We can key in on these things. You just cannot have an offense without a guy like that in today's NFL.
1000%. I completely agree with you guys. And I think, there's going to be obvious holes where they have to fill in free agency. And they probably do take a look there. Maybe center is a spot. I mean, we'll talk about Luke Wattenberg in the show, but Garrett Bowles in the last year of his deal and his play hasn't been really good through 2 games yet. I think that tackle's definitely going to be up on the board, especially for Sean Payton, who historically has drafted tackles early. But wide receiver has to be up there. They need a serious playmaker at that position. I love Cortland Sutton, love everything he's done for the Broncos organization, but man, I need some more juice. I need more juice. Can't have this.
100%.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Well, it's
Let's
time
get
to
into
it's time
this.
to do it. It's time for what everyone came for, the film.
Oh,
Our first play we're going through for. Let me set the stage a little bit. We've got a 3rd and 10. This is the first drive of the game. I thought this play was just kind of interesting to go through for. I want to just kind of show an example of why I think the offense, like, it's hard to kind of stick with the running game, and this was at least why I wrote this one down. So this was on first down, picked up 3 yards, and then on second down they lost a gain of 3. And this is one of those plays where they pick up 7, and I actually kind of like I just like the process here from Nick. I think you take what's there, but offense just can't survive from constantly having to survive for make up these third downs. So that was kind of my first thought on this one. What do you guys think?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a nice read from Knicks. They got to this high-low concept intermediately a ton of times this game. And more often than not, I felt like Knicks took the right read. Like, he was reading it on his read key, and whatever that guy gave him, he took. There were some plays here and there on these specific concepts where, you would probably like him to work it out a little bit longer and not work backside. Like, there's a play late that we're going to go over that I took note of. But I mean, like you said, these kinds of plays are good at face value. But I mean, this is a 3rd and 10 when they didn't get any yards on 1st and 2nd down. That's just not going to do it to move the chains.
I did not super love this concept out of this formation, and I'm going to be honest. So it looks like it's high low, like you said, but dude, it almost looks like a double in. And I just don't love the in from, it would be number 3 outside, right? So we've got the sit from 1, dig from 2, and then another dig from 3 is what it looks like. That second dig or vertical is supposed to pull Minka Fitzpatrick here, and it just absolutely they don't bite on it at all. So I don't know. I just don't love the concept there. I wish that maybe we could have done something else out of this formation, especially with, is it Reynolds or Sutton on the outside? I think it's.
This is Reynolds.
That's Reynolds.
No. In the bunch, on the outside of the bunch.
In the bunch, that's Sutton.
Yeah. So I just don't love the fact that he also goes in to, like, I know you're pushing vertical and you've got to take that in to avoid the contact, but like, brother, go through it. Like he's bailing out into a zone drop. Go through it. Keep pushing vertical and attack Minka's outside shoulder more, because he just sits on it all day long. I don't know. I didn't love the concept out of the formation, but I will say, like, Knicks made a great decision getting there. And you can tell by the way Dulcich caught that ball too and how he was turning. He was not expecting Minka to be there. So I like the result of the play. I think it was a smart decision by Knicks, but yeah, not a big fan of the concept out of that formation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I found it interesting. Against Seattle, they called dagger a few times, but it was more traditional dagger. They did the straight go route from the slot. Yeah. But in this game, I want to say 4 or 5 times they called dagger, and every single time it was with that slot cross instead of the go route as opposed to week 1.
So weird.
I don't know. I would prefer them to mix it up. I mean,
yeah. Absolutely.
We'll definitely get into that more because there's a lot of things that they need to mix up that they just don't.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we're getting into the very next third down here. We've got a 3rd and 2. Get this one going for us. This is the sack right here.
Yeah.
Bulls had a really rough game, and it's kind of frustrating that, like, we saw his mobility struggle so much against Seattle. I kind of question why they even put him out here in this game, because he just, like, don't get me wrong, Bulls has been rough this season, but, like, he doesn't move like this normally. Like, I don't know if he's just struggling. Like, he's clearly just struggling to get off the ball so much on that weak ankle. And it felt the same way against Seattle.
Yeah, he just gets plain beat here. And I love the fact that they were definitely trying to hit Franklin on this. Like 1,000%. This was going to Franklin, and this probably would have been a touchdown. Love that Bo stood in there and was just fucking the safety. Because Franklin coming late out of the stance, dude, he fucking gassed this guy. Let's see, what other notes did I have?
And it's one I wanted to point out too. Like, I think there's a lot of, talk about Sean Payton's kind of play calling not necessarily being effective. And don't get me wrong, I understand it isn't necessarily the prettiest thing with the personnel they have. But I think there's a lot of like, they're also doing okay big play wise, down to down. They're not doing terribly, or they're doing terribly, but they're only like 18th as far as big plays go, if I'm remembering correctly from the chart.
Yeah.
And as we've gone through in the first game, and now we're seeing in the second game, like there are big plays to be had, even if he does, he doesn't somehow work out here. There's stuff open over the middle, like. There are big plays to be had all over for this offense if one of the things can just not fall completely apart.
Yeah. And one of the overarching things that I think we'll talk about across these clips too, and I definitely want your guys' opinion on this, is I posted something on Twitter about this, specifically the interception in the red zone. And to me, I don't know what it is, but a lot of these plays, the receivers look like they're so slow out of their stance. And there's some plays, especially the ones that we're going over, where they're not even getting off the line until the ball's in Bo Nix's hands. And that's worrying. Like that's not good. You got to get out of your stance and go, because it can fuck up timing. Like I'm not trying to blame the whole rhythm on just this one thing, but this is an effort problem. This is not it's a coaching issue, but it's also just a plain effort issue. So did you guys see a lot of the same thing, or am I just tripping?
It's one of those things too. Oops, sorry. Robbie, you go first.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I saw it as well, and I saw it when you posted it on Twitter, and it's interesting to me because this coaching staff is something that I praised last season, especially the wide receivers coach, Kerry Colbert, the work that he did at USC with some of these guys like Amon-Ra, Drake London coming into the league. They are plus run blockers. So the effort isn't necessarily a coaching thing, because we've gone back and we've gone to the origins of Kerry Colbert, and effort isn't an issue with him historically, with any of the guys that he's brought into the league. And even last year, the effort was great. I mean, this last year, it is what it is, and it was what it was offensively, but that receiver group was one of the best that I've watched since the Super Bowl team, when it came to scramble drill, when it came to digging out safeties and crackback blocks in the run game. Like they were a great group at the small, finer details. So it's really interesting to see that through 2 games this season, that's sort of a negative here.
Yeah. And I mean, even on this play, look at Sutton at the bottom of the screen. He's struggling to work through this contact. He's not pumping his arms. He's not trying to get the guy off of him. He just lets him ride him and just doesn't try to fight through or anything. And like there's just no burst. Like it's so infuriating sometimes to watch. But if Bulls doesn't get beat on this play, this is probably a home run ball to Troy Franklin.
One thing I was going to say, too, is like Troy Franklin, I think, could have had an absolutely massive game here. Like, he had a few of these where he was just running wide open. I mean, he already had a pretty decent day. But, and then the other thing I wanted to say, I had to go back and watch because it was something that, like, this is why I'm glad, now we had 3 people watching this week's of the stuff to kind of discuss it, because it was something I didn't pay attention to, but especially against guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, who obviously have very good get-offs, it's noticeable as hell when, oh man, their pass rusher is already however many yards up the field, and our receivers are still not even off the line. And yes, I understand, pass rusher sitting right next to the football versus receiver, but still, your offense needs to be more in sync with that. And it's one of those things that, like, it's been frustrating considering how many returning pieces there are, that it is kind of this out of place. But as we talked about, I think such a big problem with it is we have a first-year starter at center and a first-year starter at quarterback who's I don't think are able to kind of be as in sync as you would kind of want this operation to be, because they are the brain of your offense.
Yeah. And for receiver, and shout out to JR who put in the chat, I did play wide receiver. So I look at this with a lot of my same coaching notes of if you're a receiver or pass catcher of any kind, you scan, you do your initial scan, you check, and then we're eyes on the ball immediately, because we have to be watching the ball. Hard counts come. We've seen it so many times. Hard counts come. Guys jump. They forget the count. Look at the fucking ball. When the ball moves, you go. It's that easy. And it just seems like the majority of these snaps, they're so slow getting off the ball, and there's no sense of urgency. It's infuriating, truly.
100%.
Something I
One
was gonna say,
thing.
sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Frankie.
Something I was gonna say I noticed on that one too is we've got Garrett Bowles. Like Garrett's always done a pretty good job. I feel like of this is gonna sound dumb, but holding to keep his quarterback safe. But in this game, he had a few examples where he straight up tackled a pass rusher into the other tackle, Mike McGlinchey, and that's how Mike got hurt. So like that play was another example where like, man, he just tackled Alex Highsmith directly into Mike McGlinchey, and he's lucky he didn't cause an injury there. But I mean, it happened later on in the game, so it's just, man, it was rough having Garrett out there because I'm not trying to blame him because, again, he clearly just didn't have the mobility he needed, especially against these two guys. But
yeah,
kind of a rough situation when then you've got another guy hurting your other guy.
Yeah, and I think, man, like we were talking about, Bowles is just kind of sitting at that line of like, hey, we're not going to re-sign you next year. Not with this early play. It's not good.
It'll be very interesting to see how Palczewski does. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very who knows? Probably very unlikely. I'm not going to give you with a percentage chance.
Here's another missed shot, Frankie.
Yeah. This was another one, and this was one I posted where just like the footwork has been very frustrating, and we talked about this.
Yeah,
he was gonna have to learn to not play with Oregon pockets. Sorry, go ahead, Robbie.
No, I was just gonna say one thing about Pittsburgh in this game is, oftentimes we'll watch our team play a defense and they're into the Q Fangio shit, the too high, and they'll get into the quarter half, cover 9, weak side rotation, all that. Pittsburgh is not that. Pittsburgh, they played so much straight up spot drop cover 3 to the point where it looked like a high school team schematically. But they have so much talent on both the outside and the front 7 that they get away with it. Like, this wasn't an issue of, we're just going to sit in the most basic stuff because we aren't scared of Bo Nix. That's just who Pittsburgh is. They did the same exact thing against Atlanta. It wasn't as much spot drop, but they were just going straight cover 1. They were going straight cover 3. They sprinkled in some cover 2 here now and then. But these guys just line up and they beat the shit out of whoever's in front of them. And they did the exact same thing Sunday.
Facts. And dude, credit to Pittsburgh's defensive front. That is a nasty front. That is
100%.
That allows you to, like, you don't have to call anything extravagant. If you can generate pressure by sending 4 guys, like, shit, you could just sit back all day. This was an interesting play. I love the design of this because you've got snag wheel on the bottom, which I think it's a very, very great play when you have a running back like Jaleel McLaughlin. And then the crosser concept coming over, because the snag and the wheel is going to pull that deep. I mean, they're just going to flow over to that side. And if you're playing one high safety or you're playing, cover 3 or anything like that, and that corner just sits down, man, the crosser's wide open like we see. But if you got pressure coming up the middle, Frankie,
well, something I was going to say too is, like, we really saw this stuff kind of excel in the preseason when they were able to just run some really good pick routes with their guys on the outside. And then something I did kind of want to ask, like, I do want to make sure, like, this is just a full left-right read and he just skips over the middle, right? Like, there's just no reason for him to be kind of giving up this throw, and that's the frustrating part because there is a flash here. I mean, we'll get to it from the
because there's a moment where he's looking at it, he's trying to get to it, and I think what he sees. So in my notes, I had 57 takes a great angle, and you'll see the angle right there. 57 comes inside, and you see Powers isn't there to take it. And I think he noticed that because look at where his eyes were. He's fucking looking at the cross. So right there, boom, eyes are still there. 57 took that angle in, and he panicked. And that's when the footwork comes into play. Panic, fuck, got to move off it, right? So that's where he's looking at it and he's going, okay, it's there. Oh, fuck, now we got to get off and we got to go somewhere else. Otherwise, this would have been a fucking deep ball to Marvin Mims. Would have been pretty, but he's got another one in here that does cause some concern. And we'll talk about that. But it's there. Like, the shots are there. And I like that concept. It's a really nice concept.
And this one's
one thing about that play, it's a net negative because, there was an open play and they got a 1 yard check down. But looking from week 1 to week 2, that's not a play that Nix makes week one. Like we've seen him week
No.
one, he would shuffle his feet and he would immediately look to break the pocket. He'd immediately look to scramble, and he'd be indecisive when he did scramble. So although the play is a negative at face value, I put down in my notes that him resetting his feet in that pocket once he got that initial sign of interior pressure is a positive to me, and it's small signs of improvement.
Yeah, I also wrote, that's a great point too, because that's showing growth. And then he hits the check down. Yeah, it's a 1 yard game, whatever, but it's not a turnover. We still get past the line of scrimmage. But I did write in my notes, the pressure forced Nix to come off the read and go to the right. I would like to see him roll back to the left and use his athleticism, because I think Casey Hayward was outside on Bowles, and dude, he wasn't going anywhere. He had that ability, but would love to see him use his athleticism to make a play, because we know he can also throw while going to the left. We've seen it happen before, and he throws a pretty damn good ball when moving to the left, a lot better than some other guys do. But you know what? Can't be mad at him for hitting the safety valve. Yeah. So still not a positive play, but still things that we can grow upon.
And the last thing I wanted to say is that Sean Payton was manipulating Patrick Queen a lot. I mean, he was up and down the field. He did not know where to go. And I mean, it created a lot of wide open plays over the middle, which again, we need to have the offense either. It was so frustrating because again, it's one of those things where the offense feels close because every play there's only, and this is going to sound dumb, but just a different guy is like just fumbling the bag, everything will be perfect. But as we've seen, Garrett Bowles just absolutely blows a block, wide open touchdowns missed. Okay. Right there, we get a flash of interior pressure. Bo maybe works down to a check down, whatever. Like there's a bunch of examples throughout this game of just one little thing kind of scraping up the whole deal. And it kind of makes me feel almost like, if anyone remembers what the Packers offense was like for the first 8 weeks of the season, and I'm not trying to compare this Broncos offense whatsoever to that, but with the fact that this team kind of has, I'd say, a lot of fresh faces kind of looking to do new things. When you talk about Luke Wattenberg, Bo Nix, who again are kind of the brain of your offense, you're trying to get Marvin Mims kind of into this more developed role for year two. Troy Franklin's trying to get in here. Josh Reynolds has kind of been one of the more effective receivers. Like, I think there's just kind of, I don't know. I think there's just kind of, yeah.
No, it's like it's so close.
It's so close. I really think that this team, and it sucks that they have the late bye. Like I think they're the week 14 bye or something. I think if this team, not to make excuses, had a week 6 bye and got to have another week to fully iron it out, they'd be kind of in a much better situation. But it's going to be a grind, especially with a lot of the defenses they have to face getting to week 14.
Big time. And this is not a team that's going to be, world beaters. Like, but if they could just efficiently execute the offense, they'd be competitive. The defense is playing really, pretty good.
Really good.
Just be competitive on offense, and you've got close games.
Right.
I like the little. Okay, so this is what. What are we on? 13?
This one we're on 9.
Oh, this is 9. Okay. Oh wait.
Oh, let me see this.
Is this?
Oh, this is just the 3rd and 3, and I liked it because we just got so much sync from Queen, and I think it's just kind of another example of us seeing man, Nix just is. I think there's really just we're seeing so much coaching of just linebacker sync, instantly take your check down, don't even risk it, and I think that's kind of a good sign that we're seeing that progression from Nix.
I agree.
But again, Patrick Queen just sprinting up the field, giving up the first down marker, but we take those.
I liked his eyes on that play.
Mm-hmm. He's actually he's sitting back there and he's doing pretty well reading. It's just like we said, it's so close. You can taste it.
His biggest issue so far, I mean, to me at least, because we've seen the improvement week 1 to week 2 with the pocket play in some sense. You know, he isn't perfect there. There's some plays this game where he gets tapped and he goes down for a sack. You got to play a little bit tougher in that pocket.
Yeah.
But his biggest issue, to me at least, through these 2 games is accuracy. And that does not bother me at all because accuracy is going to come, especially for a quarterback like Nix, who we saw in college play the way he did. Accuracy is going to come. The footwork is definitely a concern, but to me, it's the footwork to me is more of him just being skittish in the pocket, and that's easier to rein in than a guy who just has issues fundamentally getting to his base and finding his base with the lower half footwork. If it were that, I'd be a lot more concerned, but with him just being skittish in the pocket, I think a lot of that can be just chalked up to it's his first 2 games in the NFL.
And I think also though, and I told y'all in this group chat I was going to go fucking nuclear. As a quarterback, what's the biggest thing that would make you skittish?
Protection.
The biggest thing that would make you skittish is knowing that you've got about 0.2 seconds before a 300-pound motherfucker is running at you through the A gap untouched. That would make me fucking skittish. It's no wonder he's having a hard time stepping up into the fucking pocket. The play on the interior has just been abysmal, and I don't blame him. After watching these clips, y'all, like, I do not blame him for being skittish. It's your first 2 games in the NFL, and you're already getting A gap pressure. Like, fuck, like, you're facing some scary defenses, yeah, but goddamn, it doesn't help.
And something I want to talk about too, like, it's a good, conveyor into something I have written down is that Quinn has just kind of had a rough first couple of games, especially in the run game, which has been very confusing for me. Like, he just doesn't look himself. I don't know what it's about. Like, we see a lot of blown blocks, and that's just kind of not his deal. He does have some good reps. Like, don't get me wrong, there are still some reps where he's getting out there and knocking some dudes over, but down to down, like, there are times where he's kind of the one being the issue, and we just haven't seen that be a problem. And I really do wonder, again, we saw it in that Seattle game. Like, he was the one having to kind of signal to Wattenberg when to kind of make the snap. We see so little communication between the offensive line. I feel like from down to down, like, we don't see anybody getting ID. We don't see, we just don't see anybody really seeming to help each other when along the offensive line. And I really wonder if they don't have a guy at center that can do that. I feel like it's kind of funny. This is kind of a silly thing, but you never see Luke Wattenberg go into like that veteran center stance, where he's sitting really tucked down and just kind of, giving the little squat. He's just giving a little squat. You don't see Wattenberg do that, and you don't see him really communicate to his guys. I think Quinn has kind of had to take on a lot more of that role, obviously, with him being a captain, and that's probably making him think a little bit more than I think you'd like him to be. And that's not me trying to take away from at all what Quinn is, but let him do what he does best and run over people. You don't want to ask him to do a lot of the stuff on the offensive line just because, you didn't end up. And again, this isn't me trying to beat up on Luke Wattenberg. He was a day 3 pick from a couple of years ago, but you didn't adequately replace one of the, from what we've heard, headier centers, smarter centers in the league in Lloyd Cushenberry, and especially with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, dude.
So
center is the blank of the offensive line. Quarterback.
Right. Quarterback, yeah.
They're the quarterback. They're the one who has to make all the calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get into the next play here. Now we're on 13.
I like this concept too.
This was one of the rare 2 high snaps that they saw against Pittsburgh.
Now, here's a couple notes on this. It's smash, right? We got smash on the right. If you're facing too high and you've got a corner, you got to cut that thing off. It's got to be a harder cut. And Nix should know that as well. And it would depend too on like who your offensive play caller is, but that's a pretty general rule of thumb. If he's just sitting over the top of you and you know that you're breaking out, you've got to hit that harder. And the quarterback has to see that, and he's got to be on the same page so that he can just rip it to the sideline. It essentially turns into an out instead of a corner, right? Because we don't want to float into the safety space. It's already cover 2. So he's just going to keep floating that way. We can't run into that space. It's a bad route by Dulcich, in my opinion. Not a good throw from Nix either.
Yeah, no, I agree. The note I had here was, although it was an inaccurate ball, I don't have an issue with him trying to hit the corner route
No,
against
not
a
at
cloud
all.
corner.
No.
Yeah, against a cloud corner, you just got to fit it in there. And although it wasn't accurate, I kind of like the way I mean, look at when he starts this motion. Dulcich isn't even close to getting out of his break yet.
Mhm.
I mean, with him not rounding it off or cutting it harder, like you said, it definitely probably threw off the anticipation a little bit. But
Yeah.
I like that he's already taking these anticipatory type of throws against these tighter coverages like cover two against smash. And another thing about the concept here, I love how whenever Sean Payton designs a play, he'll have the primary. Well, and it's not just Sean Payton. This is a pretty elementary play calling thing. I don't want to sound like I'm just giving him all the credit in the world for the simplest thing. But I like how there's the primary concept and the secondary concept are routes working back into Nix's vision, so
Yep.
he's not bouncing around the field.
Yeah, nice return on the bottom, and then the dig, and then you just got your little swing dump off. But so another thing here, look at Dulcich in his get off. Run that back, Frankie. Look at Dulcich when he snaps the ball. This is what we would call unnecessary movement. See that little like, my boy, you are uncovered. Get out of your fucking stance.
Right.
Like, why are we dancing?
And he's in a tight split, so he knows he's not
Yes.
going to get pressed.
Like, they're not going to press you. They're showing zone. They're not going to press you. You're uncovered. Get upfield. Like this is what I'm talking about. This is the little things with timing and rhythm that can fuck it all up. It's elementary shit. It's effort.
Yeah, so I had written down for this one, just it was exciting to see Knicks actually like take the deep options this game. I know they obviously aren't connecting yet. I know that sucks, but like again, it's better to get, I think, these notes on the board. If we kind of find out that by the end of the season he still can't be able to hit these throws, that's good to know, but I'm glad he's at least trying them. It's better than that, people want to talk about, check down Charlie, whatever you want to say. It was exciting this game to see him take that. We'll get to it later, the deep corner to Mims. This one right here was a good option, but I also said it'd be interesting. Again, I like how many backside options are getting open whenever we kind of have plays like this, just like Robby said.
And
Man, it'll be be exciting when it's not just a guy. And again, Nate Adkins is fine. I like Nate Adkins, but when it's not just a guy like Nate Adkins kind of working these routes over the middle, I do think there will be some more willingness, to kind of not necessarily from Knicks, but just to work to some of these stuff because you can trust your guy when he's making a play like this to get upfield.
Big time. And like Robby, you're absolutely right. Knicks made the right read here. That is the right read. It's the right route. It's the right coverage. Just little tweaks.
It's a second and 6 too, so like you're totally fine with the decision.
That's fine. Fine for a shot play.
I think we should let Pat take the lead on this next play. If it's the one that I'm thinking of, I think we should let him take the lead on this play here.
Oh fuck. Okay. All right. So Broncos come out here and we get a little fake ghost motion just so we can read it for zone to man. They show it's man. Patrick Queen's following. And boy howdy. So this is Hank or Henry, whatever variation you want to use. They're just trying to get to the sticks here. And Luke Wattenberg just absolutely fucks Bo Nix on this. Absolutely fucks him. Honestly, I shouldn't say he's the only reason. Pittsburgh played this pretty well. They played this play pretty well. Everything was pretty much locked up. Josh Reynolds does a pretty good job fighting through contact. Probably could have been a little bit of a defensive holding on Joey Porter Jr., but it's fine. They'll usually let them play through that physicality. But just watch what Wattenberg does here. Meh. And then he's looking back at his quarterback getting absolutely drilled. This is not a good rep at all. This is abysmal. This will not help your rookie quarterback.
No, not at all. I'm seeing Robby fell out. Yeah, this play was very frustrating because like I don't even really love the call, honestly, on 3rd and 6 because they've run Hank so many times preseason and the regular season. Like this is one of those examples where I do kind of want to be like, bro, Sean, come on, my guy. Like this was one of those I was screaming in the game, like, why aren't we running mesh ever? We have such big bodied receivers that are so good at running into each other. You know that the Steelers are just going to run a ton of man coverage. perfect time. Let's just have some guys, convene in the middle of the field. You can have whoever this is, Josh Reynolds and Dulcich kind of cross, have the third guy sit down right here, whatever. This is a perfect time to do it. It's so frustrating seeing that we're just kind of running something that clearly they're prepared for. I don't really love this option, especially against when they've got really long DBs like Joey Porter Jr., who did have a really good game. Yep. And don't get me wrong, I saw people being like, Josh Reynolds needed to catch this. I think this is Josh Reynolds. And sure, but also this is just a really good play by the DB. I don't know. You can't really be mad about a guy having this kind of locked up. He's long as hell and he's getting his arm in there on the right side. That's just a great play. I just think you need to have a better option there on 3rd and 6 when you're already at midfield. This is at the 48 line, man. Yeah. Let's get something better going here to keep this drive going early in the game when you're down 7-0.
This would have been the opportunity for them to run like you said, mesh, but also if you're going to keep the running back on that side, go back to snag wheel. Make Patrick Queen run all the way the fuck out there. For real. That's your opportunity right there. You put Dulcich in on an in-breaking route, have him sit. Jalil just comes out of the backfield. You showed the look already. They know you're going to run fucking Hank.
Right. And I mean, it's the one coverage that you never want to run Hank against. I don't care how good your guys are at making contested catches. You're just completely out leveraged across the board.
No. And I love the sell job by the field corner. Hilarious. So funny. But
corners, I feel like one of the has to be the funniest position in the NFL to me.
There's some
real hilarious dudes out there when they'll get completely burned, but the guy drops it and they're doing the pass breakup. It's a hilarious position.
So funny, bro. But this is where
more diversity on 3rd down.
Exactly. Yes. We could go. I mean, fuck. We could have run China out of the bunch.
Do you think this is one where they're coming out with 2 plays and this is just kind of Bo Nix deciding, hey, let's run Hank into? So that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which begs the question: what was the fucking play before that?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's a kill.
It's funny because I have something written down that says it feels like they very rarely come to the line with checks or multiple plays, because there are a few times where there's 3rd downs and again, there's everyone's seeing the stat. Javonte Williams is having to rush into a lot of stacked boxes, which yes, he definitely is. He is not at all the only issue with the running game. There's a lot of problems right now, but there are so many times where they're coming to the just this insanely stacked box, double mugged fronts. And Bo Nix is just staring down all this, and I just kind of want to be man, but I also remember from last year, I think it kind of took a little bit for Russ to kind of have some checks put in. Maybe I'm crazy, and I'd imagine obviously they don't want to overload Bo, as we're seeing. It's Robby mentioned this, it's already a lot for him to have to remember one play call. I can't imagine what it'd be like having Sean Payton give you 2 to pick from,
Yeah. This would also be a great opportunity for an inverted mesh.
We just need some more.
If you really want to get Reynolds to the stick, just run an inverted mesh out of that.
There's a lot of fun things that they can get to.
Oh, dude.
They're just not there yet.
No,
for whatever reason.
It's not.
Yeah,
close.
no. It's only week 2. Again, I gotta keep that in mind. I feel like there's a lot of definitiveness. A lot of people are talking about. Don't get me wrong, the tendency stuff isn't great, but it's week 2. We see this a lot where Sean Payton likes to show a lot of stuff early in the season, and then he puts tendency breakers off of it. And we just kind of, all we can really hope for is that stuff kind of pops off. Here was probably the most exciting run play of the, they actually kind of designed something pretty fun here.
This is to me, and listen, I don't want to get on a rant over this because God knows I will, but the most frustrating thing about this season has been the conversation about play calling, about Sean Payton's offense, whether it be outdated, predictable, all these little things. It's so frustrating because it could not be farther from the truth. So specifically for the issue of motion, that last play was a good example. We're seeing a quarterback who had to go from one-word calls and signs in college for his play calls to an entire NFL structured play call. He's got 6, 7, 8 words, and he's sometimes getting 2 calls in the huddle, having to decipher which one. They are having issues getting the call in on time. They get to the line 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever. Why on earth would you want to add motion to a play like that? You're having a quarterback who is having issues this early getting the calls in, and not only that, but having issues reading things on the field. And motion isn't this telltale fail-proof thing to diagnose coverage. I mean, especially in today's game, we're getting so many of these split field coverages where defenders aren't moved as easily because of the motion. So you're not getting these telltale signs to where, okay, this guy moved 3 inches to the right, 100% man. You're not getting that as much as you are, say, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. So them not having motion isn't indicative of Sean Payton not being able to coach NFL offenses anymore. And this play is a perfect example. They come out in 2 back. They have the starting running back, McLaughlin, 2 Nix's left, bump out. What that does is that's bumping the defenders in the box over a little and giving the offensive line better angles in this running play. And because of those better angles and because of the motion, they get one of the only great blocked runs of this day.
Also, Robbie, this most definitely is an RPO concept too, because I've seen the we're not running any RPO. This is an RPO concept.
Exactly.
You do the ghost motion to the bubble screen, because if you, Frankie, can you go to full view? Watch how the receivers block this on the outside.
I'm getting there. Boo, boo, boo.
No, you're fine. But this is 100% an RPO concept, and it's blocked very well because they get the right numbers in the box. Like that, we know that we can do this. Like, this is a very clear sign.
100%.
Also, inside zone or duo.
I got this as zone. I got this as zone.
Yeah. Also, I'm just gonna make a little gripe. Wattenberg could have done a better job. Wattenberg could have done a better job getting to the second level. I'm just gonna say. Okay, look at how the receivers block out here. So
100% RPO.
Like that's full RPO. And he made the right read. He froze the end. You had the linebacker leaving, so it's 3-on-3 outside. Perfect. Hand it off. Like, good money. Okay, now go back to the tight. let's fucking watch Wattenberg on this.
It's so frustrating.
It's the smallest gripe. It's the smallest gripe.
I was gonna say something too. There was one later this game where we actually see, like, I think there was a read option called in this game, and he just gave it. And it's one of those things where, like, I've been complaining, and I do still want to see it more because, again, at this, definitely. Like, I'm not trying to be that guy and be like, oh, I'm already like, but like, I don't think they're at a point where they can build this offense around Bo Nix having all these dropbacks. You know, like, you need to, especially with how bad the running game is, man. He is a good runner at this point. We've seen it. He is a quality runner in the NFL. He is athletic. He can do this. He's 220 pounds. He's built to do it. Let's get this guy, make them account for him in the box. You know, like, let's make him a thing that they have to think about in these light box counts. We saw the QB draws this game, which worked beautifully. Both times they called them, ended up getting them, you know, I think a quote rushing success rate because they got over half the yards of the first down. But it's like, do this. Keep doing it. Lean into it. I know, and it's so weird too. And I kind of have a question. Hold on. Let me go on a little like question rant for you guys, because I've been kind of like, I think it's me kind of not big braining it, because it's, I think, just a tinfoil hat theory. Is Sean Payton just like seeing if he can do this stuff? Because in the preseason we saw him just do this, like, the offense, like, it was kind of like this, but you also saw, like, they were running lead read. They were running a little bit more of the stuff that I feel like the second game against Green Bay, we saw him just running in all of this, like, boot action stuff. I'd have to look back and see what the preseason, like, percent of dropbacks, and obviously that's probably, you know, not a little bit of a flawed stat, but, like, I'm just so confused because, again, like, we saw him run, I think, the offense I think that we'd like to be run for Bo Nix in both the preseason and last year for Russ. And, like, again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, like, but it's not like he forgot how to do that, where I'm just like, what is going on? Do you guys have any, like, kind of thought on that? I know Robbie thinks that there just needs to be more, like, play action and everything. Like, what is going on with the offensive, like, play calling that just seems like they're making it harder than it needs to be?
I mean, they 100% need more play action. I don't have the exact numbers, but I know their under center pass and run splits are like 90% run and 10% pass, and they've only done play action under center, and I want to say 5 times in both games. Like you've got to switch it up. If there's any tell in the Broncos offense, it's when they get under center because it is always going to be a run. And I'm not sure if he's just throwing all this pure drop back at Nix just right off the bat to see if that's what he can do with him, and they're trying to base around that going through the season. I mean, that would be my best guess, probably, but I mean, it's just too early to tell for me to know whether or not he's trying to build something around him or already has built something around him.
I just want to see Bo Nix go under center and throw double slants one time. That'll tell me everything I need to know. Like he could, honestly, that'll tell me everything I need to know. No,
yeah, the effort from Wattenberg is pretty funny. He gets tossed down.
Yeah, no, okay, but like go back, and I'll explain what I mean. Okay, so 74 and 60 are doubling right there, but 60 needs to come off that. You got to get off that fucking double team and just keep climbing, bro. Like I know you see him going outside, but we got to get off that double team because this could have been big. Like you see the hole that's there. Sutton comes in late, but like he needs to go get up to 41.
At the very least, push the pile earlier than this.
I mean, yeah. Like, what
Show
are you
some
doing
effort.
jogging downfield?
Show some heart.
Get the fuck downfield.
Get in there.
But if they can just get success off of RPOs like this, using 2 back sets, it'll start to open up a lot more stuff. I hope. Like a lot more of that creative stuff. We'll get screens. We'll get pump fake and goes. Like it'll open up a lot of shit.
I agree. And it's frustrating because you're going to see so many people say, why aren't they running more RPOs? And it's like the general, and I'm not trying to act holier than thou or smarter than anybody else, but majority of fans, when they complain about no RPOs, there's RPOs and they are watching them, but they're runs and not passes. The general casual fan, when they think of RPOs, is a quick 2-yard slant. That's it. That is literally it. There were so many run gives in this game where it wasn't RPO, and they ran out 6, 7, however many RPOs, and they just don't get recognized because they were a run give.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. On to the next one.
Play here. This one frustrated me quite a bit because it was one of the few times I feel like we've seen. So this is a 1st and 5. They had a neutral zone infraction. We've already got the offense work to midfield. We've got a chance to just be like, super ahead of the sticks here. And Bo comes off his first read for really no reason.
Right there. Ball out.
Yeah.
Should have been.
This was kind of a Russ play. This one made me sad. But like it's all right. I'm not gonna like overreact to rookie play. I did overreact, I feel like, a little bit when I first saw it. But it's kind of frustrating because again, here let's
also watch Franklin pre-snap and watch post-snap after the play is complete. Watch his interaction with Sutton. So pre-snap, Franklin is talking to Sutton. He's saying something to him. It looks like he's almost confused. And then at the end of this, they're talking to each other. This might have been a mistake by Troy Franklin and or Cortland Sutton. They might have been trying to say, you got this, I got this. Because that's what it looks like to me.
I think Sutton's got a hitch there. Or supposed to have a hitch there.
I almost wonder if this is the same one that they threw the pick on last week, where it's almost like the double in behind this.
Mm-hmm. And then Bo is looking lost. Maybe he's trying to read this and something's wrong.
You catch a lot of these pre and post snap things. I like this, Patrick.
I played receiver. I have to look at it. It's such a big thing to look at. You look at get off, you look at all this stuff, but you look at their body language. Like it's a very big tell.
The angle of Franklin's fade, I really think Sutton's supposed to have a hitch there, and it's supposed to be a slot fade. And then backside, they've got the high-low with the hitch to Humphrey, and then I believe that is Adkins wrapping around on the dig, or the basic.
Yeah,
but
I think, and I think you're on the right track for sure, because it looks like he's trying to – it just weirds me out because maybe Bo is trying to read back, but Franklin's not even looking back. So yeah, that slot fade is just there to pull safety, I guess.
Right.
Or maybe it's because that guy crosses over into the lane. That's a good one too. What if he was
going
not
on the
expecting
interior,
that?
man?
Dude,
Don't get me wrong. We got to make this throw, but like
another pressure by Wattenberg. That's what I have.
I'm not trying to be that guy
pressure.
and like who's 57 for the Steelers. I mean, they have a ton of good interior talent. So that's not me trying to like bash this guy.
No.
I know they have Ogunjobi, who's 99. 92 kind of had some good reps in the run game. Is that Neil? I don't fucking know.
Or DeMarvin Leal.
Oh, is it?
Maybe. I'm trying to get back to the.
God, they've drafted so many fun draft dudes. But yeah, like gotta just take this. It's free money. Let's take your free money. Get your 5 yards. Unless you guys really like. So do you guys think this is a definite like 1 to 2 every time, or you need to just take one here, right?
Yeah, no,
You
you need to take
You
one.
need to just take one.
You got to down in distance. You got to know your situation.
I don't know
Like,
why.
Appreciate you trying to make the backside read, but like
it's not even down in distance too. This is so open, man. Like at the very least, like give your guys a chance. I know we don't have the best like guys, but like
I think something that Sean Payton needs to really emphasize to Bo is like let's just prioritize first downs. Let's just start stacking first downs. Just move the ball efficiently.
Take the ball out of his hands in the red zone. Or at least not give him like too much to work through. Like we need like that's where I think like don't get me wrong, like I've complained a lot about the third down stuff and the stuff between the 20s, but I really think that's where they need to use some special sauce. Like they really need to just design some stuff up. We saw it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying run a bunch of well, I kind of am. Run a bunch of screens in the red zone, run a bunch of weird ass shit so you can just
the pick play that they ran in Indianapolis.
Yeah, pick play.
Another RPO.
Let's run some quarterback run stuff like the flat route play. Yeah, exactly. Like let's just make it easy. Let's not give him this stuff where we're running crossing routes along the back line in the end zone, which don't get me wrong, he needs to see a lot better. Yes, that's completely on him. But at the same time, it's kind of like, bro, like, who do you think you got back there? You know, like let's just make this a little bit easier. We see all these other teams having their red zone offense be so, one dimensional. And it's one of those things that again, I'm kind of eating my own words because I thought that the red zone offense would be a lot better this year. I did think that again, a lot of the guys they brought in can just kind of whoop ass, I think. Like Josh Reynolds, good blocker. I really like the idea of having Audric Estime as just a short yardage pounder.
Yeah.
And Bo what? But and then like the idea to me was that maybe Bo Nix can be a little bit safer, but there is also the idea that man, Russell Wilson made a lot of plays in the red zone last season. Like, like he was making a lot of those like
he could still create.
That was where he was creating a lot, and I will give kind of credit where it's due that I thought that this would be kind of a more consistent red zone offense, and it hasn't been through 2 games.
Yeah.
Getting on to the next
1,000% agree. And speaking of, I love this play design. This is nice.
Yeah.
This is really nice. QB draw, but instead of just doing all goes, we do flat screen. Oh, my heart.
That's a really nice
this
design
is
right
so
there.
Sexy. And this is where you can utilize Nix as a runner. Just clear out the box, and then let him go. He's such an explosive athlete.
And this is one of those two, I'm pretty sure, like, I not to sound like a total nerd, I watched his 15-mile-per-hour plays, and this is one where, like, he's getting to 50 miles per hour on the short burst. I'm not trying to pretend that that's, like, but again, like.
Look at Wattenberg on this one. Just look at it. But great design, great execution. This was a fantastic
get out the microscope
play.
Quick. But yeah, man, love to see it. I mean, again, more. Yes. We need more of it, especially against teams like this. They're just going to show you man all day, and
look at the backers because you're influencing the out, and a lot of QB draws are just all goes clear out. Dude, Wattenberg just gets absolutely fucking blasted.
It's so bad. Like, dude, come on. No.
It's so bad.
I'm sorry, Lloyd. I took you for granted.
PFF only gave him 2 pressures on this game. 2. I feel like we've talked about at least 3.
We've seen 2 in the last 2 plays.
This is this is not, and granted, this is not a pass, so it doesn't count as a pressure, but this would count as a pressure. Like 100%. That's awful.
This one also made me really happy because last week I talked about how it really upset me that, like, don't get me wrong, Bo's very athletic, but he was kind of falling like a rag doll left and right. He was kind of just flopping all over the field, especially on scrambles. Look at this slide. Oof.
That's
a nice
hey,
slide, you know? Like, I'm not trying to get excited, but this is a guy, like, it seems like he's good at protecting himself with the ball. Can he actually score touchdowns? I don't know. I really don't know. But he seems like he's pretty good at protecting himself at the ball and the ball when he's not, you know, at times running himself into sacks. Like, I do think if he can, again, calm himself a little bit, he will be one of those guys that will have a very good pressure to sack ratio, whatever, you know. Yeah.
This next play is going to be my last. I'm so sorry.
That's completely understandable. We'll finish.
Got a newborn baby.
Brother.
We got a newborn baby. We got to
When
take
duty calls.
Hey, chill. Hey. No, this, I just want to say this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to do this again.
Anytime.
Okay. We're
running Hank again.
This was messy. I felt like Bo was trying to do too much here. I also think I think he had enough. I think he thought he had enough time to do the pump fake and try to hit something else. This is not college, my boy. This is not the same game. You got to know who's coming. You got to know who's coming off the right side. Like, you do not have time to do that. So my notes on this: Bo holds onto the ball way too long. The ball should be out at about the 5-second mark of that clip, where Sutton's at the top of his route. Let's see. I was also wondering if the get off of the wide receivers is slowing down timing. That's something that I wrote down in my notes. Steelers show 5 and bring 4. They dropped that, what would it be, a weak side backer into coverage, and that he might have seen that in his throwing lane. And then maybe Bo thought he had enough time to pump and fake and create soft sack is what I wrote down.
No, I mean 100%. And what makes me think the few plays that we saw earlier where Sutton and Franklin were kind of confused on what they ran, what makes me think that was supposed to be a fade hitch is because this is that same fade action that you're getting from Franklin in the slot, and then he converts it to the not a swirl. He converts it to the curl. So we're seeing constraint plays off of plays that they're already running in the same game.
Yep, 1,000%.
Can we just get some versatility in our passing concepts? We're running Hank. We're running Hank way too much. But also, one thing I was wondering is just like, I don't know, is there a world where, like, I wish he was reading the squeeze a little bit more to the right instead of working over here? But I guess you just don't know that this guy's dropping off, and it's fine to kind of read this to the left. But Troy Franklin does a pretty good job on this route. Once again,
he had some really good reps. He had some really bad ones, but he also had some really encouraging ones.
Well, Patrick.
What? Sorry, I'm watching. I'm watching highlights. LTP Muse posted the Patrick Chiotti highlights.
Oh my God, are they amazing? There's a bunch of special teams ones, right?
Oh my God, nah. Well, actually, there's one on a kickoff.
There we go. Yo,
you want to put that up?
I'm gonna have to watch. I'll figure it out.
Put it up. Don't put it up. Don't do this to your boy. This was a long time ago. Man, this was a lot of fun. I'll tell you. This shit was so much fucking fun. Playing in this league. Well, I'm talking about this video, but like,
I gotta watch it after this. 100%.
Dude, playing in this league was so funny, man. It was a lot of fun. You learn a lot about football. Oh man, that little kick return.
I'm definitely going over to watch that when this one ends.
It's my slow ass. All right, hey, I love y'all. This has been so much fun. I can't wait to do this again, bro.
Thanks for coming on, Patrick.
Later, boys.
Whenever you want to come on.
Brother.
Have a great night.
You too.
Oh, all right. We're still going to finish it. We're still going to wrap this up. We've got, I don't know, still like 12, 15 more plays. So let's get into it. We've got a 4th and 7 right here. Coming up, where are we at? This is in the 2-minute drill. They're at 2:32 left. This is a couple plays after that one pickup.
This is the 4th and 7?
Yep.
Okay. So on one hand, for me, it shows a lot of trust that Sean Payton has given Franklin these choice routes this early in this game. I mean, he was a healthy scratch week 1, and he only saw 12, 13 snaps this game. But on the 12, 13 snaps that he did see, he saw some choice routes, and those take a lot of trust between a play caller and a wide receiver. And for good reason, because a play like this is a good example of it. So a choice route, you're working against man coverage. You're playing off the leverage of the defender in front of you. If he's giving you inside leverage, you want to break the route outside. If he's giving you outside leverage, you can break the route inside. Now, however, if he's showing you inside leverage, you can still break inside, but you have to do a better job of squaring that defensive back up and getting on his toes before you cross his face and work inside. Now, Franklin is getting clear inside leverage here. He's got to break this outside. And Nix knows that he has to break this outside because you can see the hesitance in the pocket, and it really just screws the timing off of everything. And it's a negative on Nix's footwork, but I think it's due to his footwork being tied to that route, and it's the wrong break. Like, Franklin's really got to break that outside because not only is the defender giving him that leverage, that little skip step that he did off of the release is to allow that receiver next to him to clear out all the space so he can work that choice route. And that receiver cleared out a lot of space. He had the whole outside of the to the field to work to on that, and he really just has to break that out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, you kind of see Bo Nix lined up right here. Like, he's looking to kind of throw this here. He almost looks surprised that the guy's breaking inside. His footwork's already set up to this because he's about to get blasted by Alex Highsmith, it looks like. And again, I also wanted to point out, like, we've got some really good routes to actually run on this play. I thought Sutton did a really good job getting vertical at the bottom of the screen, I believe. We actually have little Jordan Humphrey, like, just breaking off the shit out of Dante Jackson, which was pretty cool. Like, he does a good job, like, getting him on his back heels here and breaking this one outside. But again, it doesn't matter. You want to have your first read kind of, again, not to beat him up, but run the correct route. You got your quarterback, then kind of confused. He runs inside. Luckily, it kind of, again, this one's frustrating because almost ends up being a pick. I almost kind of wish, I don't know. It's weird to me that Bo sees kind of the play being a mistake and still kind of almost chooses to compound a mistake. That's not something you really want to be seeing, but
Right.
still, kind of, it's one of those where we've got a lot of people making errors on this one, and we just hope kind of our young guys can get better as the season progresses. Because,
Right.
like you
I
said,
agree.
like right here, lined up, looks like he wants to throw outside. He's breaking inside, so he's kind of like, and he just kind of panics and chucks it. But
Yeah.
what you'd probably like to see him do when he sees that mistake is just step up here, and you can either literally look like right here over the middle, or you've probably got the open shot on the sideline.
And again,
Instead of trying to compound
Bowles,
an error,
man.
and this is almost a very lucky play for Patrick Queen.
Both Bowles and McGlinchey. Man. They got some real outside pressure.
Yeah, they did. All right, let me get to the next one.
McGlinchey's a little bit understandable because he's going against one of the best defensive pass rushers in the league. And surprisingly, TJ Watt didn't take over that game. He had some pressures for sure, but that was not the type of game that I was expecting seeing him on the schedule.
This is probably not what a lot of people would expect me to say. I've actually thought McGlinchey has had a decent season because, again, we know what he is. Like, I'm not trying to, like, beat him up, but, like, he's actually been a pretty cool – I think he's probably been the best run blocker on the team so far because they're actually designing runs, like, for him straight up. Like, they've run a couple of the tosses where they're having a little Jordan Humphrey crack down inside and he's getting to wrap around. And he's been doing a pretty good job on those. I think his double teams with Quinn are still, like, one of the better double teams, I don't know, that we've had in the last however long. That sounded terrible. Oh, my God. But it's going – Jesus, dude, one of these days. But that's one of the things I think they've really been able to kind of build around is the strength of that right side of the line, being able to be so athletic, but also be so powerful, kind of, making opening, whatever. I'm not going to even keep going on it because it's all just going terrible. But yeah, I think McGlinchey has been pretty good, even though the McFlinchy and the holdings have still kind of been an issue just because, and this is kind of not trying to be mean, the competition really hasn't been great. Quinn hasn't really been himself through 2 games. Wattenberg's been Wattenberg. Ben Powers, he's kind of a known commodity. I think he's kind of a C plus at guard, which is fine. I'm completely fine with it. And that probably sounds absolutely terrible, but like that's completely quality. And for his contract, I'm not upset about it really. And Bulls is having a rough season. So yeah, I think McGlinchey's probably been the best one out of there so far.
I agree. I actually really liked this play. So they're gonna go 3-by-1 nub look. This is on a 3rd and 7, and they've got 11 personnel out there. They're just gonna run dagger. They're gonna have the slot cross with Sutton coming over on the dig behind it. But they know they're getting one, or they know they're getting one robber or one rat, whatever your verbiage is, because of how much they've gotten it throughout the game. Now, they've tended to drop the robber from the weak side so that they can come and poach any crossers coming from the strong side. So what they did was they had the nub look with, and again, and for the viewers who don't know, 3-by-1 nub is 3 receivers to one side, 1 receiver to the other, but that 1 receiver is a tight end lined up off the line of scrimmage like Dulcich there, and they've got all that work, all that space to the boundary. That's a nub formation. And what they do is to try and counter the safety and the robber coming from the weak side, taking crosses from the strong side, is they're going to have Dulcich from that nub formation run a shallow. And with that shallow, he's going to draw down Minka, who is that weak side robber player in those 2 high pre-snap structures that rotate to 1 high, with the weak side coming to poach the strong side crossers. So with Minka coming down for that shallow, that pulls him out of the window for Sutton on the dig. And a really nice throw from Nix there.
Fantastically broken down. One other thing I wanted to point out was I really liked, Patrick mentioned it earlier, like, we don't have receivers that are kind of getting physical downfield, especially in their routes when we're running a lot of stuff that's meant to kind of open up space. You get Josh Reynolds here just really taking this corner out of the play, like, obviously, again, it's man, he's going to be running with him, but getting physical with him, really just forcing the issue that we are going to open up this space of grass behind your crashing down player. And like you said, Minka had a really nice game coming downhill, but this is one of the times they're actually able to take advantage of the fact that a lot of teams seemingly think that Denver, I don't know, they're not taking advantage of a lot of these openings, and that's another reason why it's exciting to see Bo Nix pushing the ball downfield. I can't believe I just did that. No. But we're excited to see Bo Nix actually pushing the ball downfield. And again, he's attempting throws, sometimes successfully, with a lot of anticipation this season, which is fun to see. I can't be disappointed about the fact that, like, we've got a guy that really is, like, trying to be ahead of the schedule on a lot of these throws. I do sometimes wish maybe he'd, like, just give it a tick extra before he releases the ball, because it seems like too often he's literally predicting where a guy is going to be, and he's not even giving the attempt at, like, hey man, sometimes the DB is going to bump a guy and you're not going to be able to adjust to that. You don't necessarily want to just, I don't know, but it is exciting to see, and like you've said, I think a lot of that stuff will clean up later in the season.
Right. And I think that is Joey Porter that Sutton outworked at the top of that route there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really good rep from Sutton there.
And we'll take a look at that from the end zone angle. I will say one of the reasons I think that TJ Watt, they were throwing a lot at him. I saw a lot of chips the entire game long, which is, like, again, a lot of the things that people might be like, oh, they're not doing a lot to help Bo. They have been doing at least a lot to, I think, kind of help the protection as much as they can. Oh, Ben Powers tossed by Cameron Howard. Shit. That's some old man strength right there.
Holy shit, man. Wait, this is a problem that's just dating back to last season. Every game we come on here and break down, there's Denver offensive linemen on the ground at least like 3, 4, 5 times a game.
And it's too bad, because that's one of the things, like, that's an important thing for, like, scouting of guys. Like, a guy's balance is very important. And Quinn usually has superb balance. But, like, McGlinchey's kind of known as a guy, like, McGlinchey hits the deck a lot. You see this guy on the ground all the time. Powers kind of looking like one of those guys, and Bowles has just been not really Bowles. So, like you said, there's a lot of dudes hitting the dirt. Oh, rough times. Well, nice. We're actually going through the next 4 of these plays. Man. Well, I think here we get the here, I'll let it pop up. Oh, yeah. No, this is the drive that should have been but wasn't, because, again, we have such great plays.
Right.
This one I thought was so interesting because it's so religious, but it's so weird to me that, like, I don't know, man. I feel like this shouldn't have worked, but I love that it worked.
Right. These plays don't swing this way for Denver. Like, once I saw Nix have to leave his base and throw it like that, I did not think this ball was going to get completed. And by the way, this is a nice fucking throw.
This is a nice throw.
This is a nice fucking throw. Off his base, he's going to get hit right after. Chucks it out. I think this is the second longest air yard throw of week 2. I believe so. And I mean, he's getting thrown off his base. Easily could have been way more underthrown than it was. And Reynolds does a great job of just coming back and high pointing that ball. Reynolds is so underrated.
He's been good. Like I saw something today where it's like he's like I'm not gonna say what rating is, but he's like one of the better like EPA combinations, him and Bo Nix so far this season, which isn't saying much because obviously they haven't been very good, but he has been a solid addition to this offense, which again, when we talk about like they're kind of doing what they can with the receiver room because they don't have a bunch of talent. And again, I know it might be frustrating because people are like, oh, like they need to have different stuff, but I don't hate a lot of the additions they've made. You know, we can argue that Marvin Mims should have been a different pick. You know, that's kind of a story for a different day, but I'm liking what we're seeing out of Josh Reynolds. It seems like Troy Franklin might be a guy that they can actually utilize this year. Like, I'm not too upset with how the receiver room looks. And again, this is a team that just didn't have they had $60 million just wiped out of their bank account. And they seem to take that money directly out of the skill positions, which I actually kind of wanted to say it's kind of interesting to me because I almost wonder if it's one of those things where Sean Payton was like, yeah. I don't need it. Like, whatever. I'll figure it out. And it's kind of like, damn, Sean, you sure? Like, we can take something out of it. Like, don't get me wrong, they didn't pay Justin Simmons. I completely get it. Like, you know, whatever. But like, it's just kind of funny to me that again, like they have talent on the defense, but like they truly were just like, whatever, like we'll roll with like rookie center, rookie quarterback. Our receiver core will be made up of like, you know, Cortland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, and whatever else we can find, you know, like it's just kind of a little bit interesting to see kind of how it's constructed. And again, I do think it is probably a little bit of the ego of Sean Payton being just like, I'll make it work. Yeah, I've done this before. Right. And it's kind of like, okay, like we'll see, I hope. But yeah.
I mean, I agree.
Because man, like you just gotta look like again. I'm not trying to, but like, dude, if there's like, you know, knock on wood, knock on whatever. God forbid there's an injury to one of those like top, you know, 2-3 guys. It's gonna get kind of crazy when they're just like they're actually gonna have to play just a lot of like Dante Sills, like guys that are just like sitting on the practice squad. Which like again, I'm not trying to beat up on those guys, but like we've got a rookie quarterback we're trying to evaluate out here.
That was such a nice play downfield by Reynolds.
Really good job to fight. And this is another one we see them like utilizing the blocking action where he fakes getting into his blocking stance, gets the corner completely tricked, and he's able to break up field. We see this kind of later on when they're doing the levels concept that gets missed to Nate Adkins. Well, not missed. Well, depending, kind of.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, the distance on this throw is pretty. Great adjustment, makes the play down to the thing. And we're sitting here like, oh my God, I know I was excited. I wanted to look at this next rep because this one frustrated me. This was another one where like, you know, I know I feel like I probably sound like I'm the number one Javonte Williams. Like, man, I really wish this guy would just like take advantage of the lanes that are given to him. Because again, there are a lot of times where he's getting smashed in the backfield. I am not trying to make it sound like at all that Javonte Williams is the main issue. But there are times where we get plays like this, and this is a split zone play, where like, man, look at the push we get for like this is one of the few plays where like Quinn and Wattenberg are able to get a real shove. We're up to the second level, but it feels like he just really wants to go towards this linebacker who's not like this is such a hard angle for you to hope that little Jordan Humphrey to get to that. I don't know. This one frustrated me. Maybe you have a separate note.
No, I mean
I guess you could say that 92 is too. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. The first time going through it the first time, I didn't necessarily see that, but you pointing it out now, I mean, you're right. I think 95 still does come off the block from Miners there. I mean, not Miners, sorry, Wattenberg. I think he does come off the block from Wattenberg, even if Javonte does take that hole. But I mean, you would still want to see him hit it because he doesn't know what's going to happen after he hits it. So we know that because we're watching on the All 22, but him being in the backfield, we want him to hit the hole that is, you know, that's going to yield him the best results. And here it would probably be that front A gap. But I mean, it was interesting because this is the exact same read option look that we've seen in the preseason with Knicks, that we've seen 3, 4, or 5 times last season with Russ. With that, they've got the wide receiver cracking back. They've got the blocker coming across the formation in motion, acting as the lead blocker for Knicks if he was to pull it. Obviously, he wasn't given a pull read. He was given a give read, and he handed it off. and they only got a yard. So, I mean,
I didn't even realize that this was. Look at you. Look at you. Yeah, no, you're completely right. And it's so funny because earlier I'm really being like, where is the lead read in the red zone? Well, here it is, you dumbass. God. Again, people, like a lot of the things that are complainable that I think a lot of social media and the media complains about with Sean. Like, if you go back and watch, it's really like, man, I think there's plays like these where it's like the run game again. Say what you want, but like sometimes guys just got to make plays. Passing game too, and again, I know that that's on
yes.
coaching. I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, the coaches can't make these guys whatever, make them energized, whatever you want to say. But like at a certain point, dude, we're paying these guys whatever. They got to go on the field and make the things happen. And there's too many times where it's just like one guy is just not doing his job whatsoever, and it is frustrating, 100%. But no, I'm glad you pointed this out. But like, I also want to point out this was one of the few plays where it's like this is a Quinn Miners rep right here. Look at what he does to Patrick Queen and Minkah Fitzpatrick. They are both out of that play. Like, if this is one, like, again, obviously this is dreaming, where we're just somewhere, it's easy touchdown, walk in. He doesn't even have to worry about it. But yeah, then we'll get to the next play. Because now we're getting to what, the 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10?
Yep.
So we're still in the red zone.
Most controversial player of the offense that day. I mean, I really don't want to sound. Go ahead.
This is going to sound dumb. I feel like we see this little check motion a lot. Like, I'm curious, like, I don't know. I feel like we do see a lot of motion still in the passing game. Like, I know it's obviously not the motion everybody wants where we're getting motion into routes. Denver doesn't really have guys that would be helped very much if they did that in the first place. So I don't, like, maybe Marvin Mims if you want to get him going on a runway. But, like, who's the guy that we're like, man, let's get this guy ahead of steam going into his route and we're going to really do some damage. Like, it's not really, there's not a guy out here. But it is something like this where I've been like, man, like, there is still, like, they do motion to get tells for Bo Nix, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, this is a great example of what I was saying earlier, that motion isn't always this telltale sign because you have a linebacker following McLaughlin, and then post snap, TJ Watt takes him off, and this is cover 3. So they had that linebacker following McLaughlin that would have told Nix, hey, this is man coverage, which might have been why he stuck with Sutton and didn't come off of him. And we saw TJ Watt pick him up in zone coverage. So we know, like, this motion isn't some fail-proof coverage indicator that it's propped up to be most of the time. But going into the play here, I mean, I saw a lot of different people trying to find a lot of different players to put the blame on other than Bo Nix. And this is just a bad play by Nix. Like, you've got to read the drop from those linebackers and know that you're getting the same cover 3 defense that you've gotten all game to this point, and you know that back line is not going to be open. I saw some people say that Josh Reynolds was the one that ran, or Sutton was the one that ran the wrong route, and Reynolds should have been the one that maybe ran that skinny post. But even then, that backside corner has no vertical to hold him in cover 3, and he's cutting underneath any of those crossers over the field. And I mean, look at the outlets that he has on this play. He has both Burton and Troutman right there, sitting in a zone void for him to take. Like, I understand you have a rookie quarterback, and as a fan, you don't want anything to be his fault. But we cannot find people to blame on a play like this where it is okay that Nix threw an interception in this spot. I mean, and just in the context of week 2 against the Steelers, yeah, it sucks because this was a perfect drive. But in this context of his rookie season, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. And admitting so doesn't mean that you don't like the player.
I will agree. I had a bit of a hot reaction to this, but I've cooled down. I'm very glad you pointed that out because that is a very interesting point where I really do wonder if he was just over trusting on this indicator and just kind of was like, oh no, I don't know what to do now. We've kind of seen this a few different times where, and there actually was an example of this. I don't know if I wrote it down, but we had another 3 safety look where like it wasn't the exact same thing, but he just instantly went to the check down and I had to be like, nice, like we're still seeing that. That's not really something I love, but whatever. But yeah, it just seems like this is one where he just kind of hasn't really seen it as guys like this, didn't really know what was coming at him. It does make me, I'm not saying feel better because again, horrendous play. This is another one where when we see it from the end zone angle, Ben Powers was getting his ass whipped by Cameron Hayward this game. But yeah, I also had the responses after I made the "this is an inexcusable play here" tweet because I had everybody giving a different reasoning for this. The play calling's awful. Everybody's too confused because the routes are wrong, which, yes, it does look like Josh Reynolds is running the wrong route, but exactly like Robbie said, that's not influencing this backside corner at all. I saw people being like, the route diversion doesn't have the middle of the field open. And I want to be like, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Look at the middle. Look at this
Exactly.
window. Like, come on now, guys. Like, we don't gotta make up things. And again, like, the pocket is very bad. I'll completely agree. Look at Ben Powers getting tossed out the way. But again, what upsets me a little bit about this one too, don't get me wrong, corner makes a good play. I like him dropping off the ball here. But this is so readable from Nix. Look at him stare down this ball along the back line. You're already over on this right here, and this is one of those ones where it's like he's a little quick to come off of one. He needs to be a little bit more 1-2. We see him sometimes go one panic or just 1-2 down, and it's just kind of like, bro, I get it. We're getting a lot of pressure so far. We've heard it with like you're getting hit a lot, but at the same time, we need you to be able to operate stuff like this. Again, I don't love this call. I don't love that we're kind of forcing our rookie quarterback to do this stuff against Pittsburgh in week 2. But either way, you have options here that aren't just we need to throw up the kill switch. This is only 2nd and 9 anyways. Like, dude, relax a little bit. You don't need to stare down this throw for multiple seconds. Throw it off your back foot with a guy in your face and just try to whip it in when, again, as we've stated, this is this is confusing a little bit because of the disguise, but you see these linebackers dropping, and he's looking right at them. He knows that this is cover 3. I don't know why he seems to believe, because again, he sees TJ Watt drop right away. Like, he knows that TJ Watt's on the guy. He shouldn't be sitting here like, oh, the corner, unless he really believes that the corner is sitting down here too, which I guess he does, and it's just a bad rep, which, again, there's no excuse. Hopefully this is stuff that gets better, but yeah, let's watch Ben Powers get thrown around.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it kind of looked like they ran that same snag wheel backside that Pat was talking about earlier on in the show. You can kind of see that receiver's trying to get a little pick action there for McLaughlin, and you can kind of see Nix's eyes go there off the snap, but then he just works right back to Sutton. And I want to say, a lot of people complain about the personnel on this snap. This is such a common personnel grouping for the low red zone. Like, honestly, what is the issue? You have their most explosive pass catching back. You have their 2 best, biggest possession, big body wide receivers in Sutton and Reynolds. You have the best tight end on the roster, Adam Troutman. And yes, that is an indictment on the tight end room, but still the best tight end on the roster. What is so bad about this personnel? They come out in a heavy personnel to get the Steelers defense to match with base. They did match with base, but they couldn't take advantage of it. I don't understand what the outrage is over this personnel grouping.
I find it very funny too because, again, everyone complains about the personnel grouping when the reality is, sadly, the personnel just isn't very great because they haven't had the resources over the years. But it's kind of one of those things like, all right, you want them to live in, like, maybe, you want them to really live in one personnel grouping. Obviously they're going to do more than that, but it's like, we can't have both, guys. You can't have, like, oh man, where's this creative Kyle Shanahan offense? But then also be like, why is our fullback in the game? Why is our tight end 2 and 3 in the game? It's like, guys, those are conflicting arguments. And at the same time, as I'm trying to say, and this isn't really kind of an indictment on anyone in particular, they don't have like one personnel group that you want to lean on. It's not like this team can just be like, we're just going to rein in 11 personnel all game. We're just going to really try to bully teams in 12. Sadly, they don't really have a group of guys right now that you can just be like, this is going to be our lean on group. We trust this personnel group. It's also one thing, and this is probably going to, sorry, this is another point of it. We need to get Marvin Mims snaps. We need to get all these other players snaps. That's a different personnel grouping, guys. Guess what? Marvin Mims isn't a starter right now on the team. I get everybody would want that, but right now, that's just not the case. So if you're wanting to get Marvin Mims in the game, if you're wanting to see, I don't know, Greg Dulcich, I've got people telling me Lucas Kroll is a savior of this team. I don't think he is. Excuse me. You want to see those guys get snaps. Guess what? That's a different personnel grouping. So, like, again, it's one of those things that, like, I hear it. I know there's a lot of people that they kind of maybe read something and then they just want to kind of repeat it. But, like, just give it a little bit of thought. Like, man, why are they having to do this? Why are they having to do this? Why isn't there more of this? Maybe they're just not good at it. Maybe they don't have the personnel to do it. Believe me, I get it. I want this thing to be a lot better, too. But when you go back and watch it, it's kind of like, man, like, what? I'm not trying to be that guy and be like, what are you going to do? But there are so many variables that just aren't kind of going the Broncos way early on, and it was kind of to be expected because of what this was set to be. Record of not having cap in your bank. Rookie quarterback, rookie or first year starting center, one of probably, and this isn't, again, an indictment on any of the players in particular, one of the weaker weapon groups in the NFL, straight up. This is kind of the expectation. I'm not saying you expect it to be this bad, but at the end of the day, what really are you going to do? You can try to make it look a lot better, but like, we've talked about what we want them to do, and we hope that they add a lot of those things, but you can't just spam, this isn't CFP 25 where I hope they incorporate the run game more, but that's not going to be an instant fix and they're going to be a top 25 offense. I think that will help open stuff up. I think they do need to incorporate more play action, but based on what we've seen, man, the play action reps have been bad from this team. Half the time the offensive line's given up a blown block. Bo Nix doesn't seem to feel comfortable running a lot of play action stuff yet. And again, we've talked about, last little point. I'm sorry, I'm going on a little tangent here.
You're good.
Everybody's like, oh man, we pointed out a billion times, Bo Nix footwork, it's had his issues. He's a little frantic. Okay, now everybody wants him to run 5-step, 7-step dropbacks over and over again. I would like that too, but are we trying to run gun play action? Like, no one gives actual solutions. They just kind of say things, and it's like, but let's think about why that's not happening. We've talked about how our rookie quarterback's footwork isn't great, so probably asking him to run a bunch of 7-step play action right now isn't the move, which is concerning. I'm not saying that's not concerning, but that's probably just the answer right now. So, sorry.
No, I mean, you're 100% right, and you hit the nail exactly on the head. A lot of the issues and a lot of the complaining when it comes to the Broncos offense is nobody wants to put the blame on Nix. Nobody at all. That doesn't get clicks, that doesn't inspire confidence. Nobody wants to admit that their rookie quarterback is playing poorly, regardless of the conditions. Yes, things are not well in the offense. Peyton could be better. The players could be better. The offensive staff could be better. But Nix could be a lot better than he is right now. Given he's still a rookie, nobody is indicting his career. Nobody is saying that this is the end of it because he doesn't look good right now. But just objectively, he does not look good right now. And it's just, there's a ton of buzzwords getting thrown out. Nobody really, it's so tough to say these things because I don't want to come off as like I'm smarter than everyone else because I'm not. I don't know half the shit of football X and O's, so I don't pretend like I do. But a lot of the things that people complain about, they just don't have a full grasp on it. Like play calling and these different subsets of offense, like motion, and they want more RPOs and things like that. And they're on there. They're calling them. They're on tape. But because these things aren't apparent and they aren't working, then they become an issue. But if these plays started working, for example, on that red zone play there, if Nick scores a touchdown, not a single person in this fan base is talking about that personnel ever. But because it didn't work, now it's an issue. And now we have to find something to blame other than the rookie quarterback who stared down his read the entire time. And again, it's okay to acknowledge that these plays are horrible because they objectively are. Saying they're horrible doesn't mean that we're saying that Nix is never going to be a good quarterback. That's not what we're saying at all when we say these things.
I'd rather us, again, the entire point of the season is evaluating. I'm glad we're getting notes on the board as opposed to just like, it's all about figuring out if Nick's can be the guy. Yes, first 2 checkpoints, not very good, but it doesn't mean we have to start throwing blame at these other people because, yes, at the end of the day, Sean Payton did pick this guy. We'll cross that bridge when we end up getting to it, whatever. But again, it's hard for me when I watch this tape to be like, man, this guy completely forgot how to play a game, could play call a game. Again, we'll get to some of the fourth quarter, whatever. We could talk about that stuff. I know we're already a little bit deep into this, and by a little bit, already an hour 30. Sorry about that. But like the play calling to me, like again, I have a hard time looking at the stuff they've put on tape through 2 weeks against. Again, I can't state it enough. Probably their first 4 weeks of 4 of the better defensive coordinators at beating quarterbacks in the NFL for the last 5 years, 10 years. Like, guys, Mike McDonald last year was like otherworldly with what he did with Baltimore. We have Mike Tomlin, who's just had a good defense for seemingly since I was in diapers. We've got who is it next week? We've got Todd Bowles this week. It's Todd Bowles. Yeah, this is
And
like
we got
I'm genuine.
Saleh.
We'll get into that. Terrified about this week, and then he gets Robert Saleh, like who was like doing like guys. This is not good. All of it's just kind of like a super bad poop storm. But like man, it's hard for me to watch what Sean Payton is putting on tape against a lot of these defenses, and a lot of people probably find that sacrilegious and be like, this guy completely forgot how to call a game. Because as we keep pointing out, there are open shots. He is beating a lot of these coverages because, yes, teams aren't necessarily showing their full hand, but again, it isn't his fault that guys aren't executing.
I agree. I mean, this is a perfect example because they get the same cover three that they've gotten all game. They scheme up a nice cover three beater. I mean, you're gonna have the dig by Sutton is gonna draw down, or first of all, sorry, the play action is gonna bring the safeties down, bring the second level defenders down.
Yep.
Then you're gonna get Cortland Sutton, who is running a hard vertical stem at that corner. That corner is going to just naturally kind of gravitate towards Sutton with that hard vertical stem. And also that inside dig is going to catch a little bit of the attention of the middle field safety Minka Fitzpatrick in that cover three. With that hesitation from that corner who was getting ran at by Sutton, he's allowed space to get behind him, and you have Mims running that deep corner on that cover three. And again, this is a hard ass throw to make, so I'm not knocking him for not being able to make it. But Peyton schemed up a nice call against a look that they've seen all game that would have went for a huge play. It's not on him that Nix doesn't hit this. Like it's just not. Like it's okay that Nix doesn't hit this when we're talking about his entire rookie season. It's not great that he didn't hit it in the context of this game, but he didn't hit it. We don't have to find somebody else to blame on this play because he didn't hit it.
100%. And yeah, this is another one where again, I'm not trying, and this isn't an indictment on Marvin Mims right at all. But a lot of people are like, why isn't Marvin Mims getting used? Why isn't he on the field? It's like, guys, like I don't know if we have the quarterback right now that can really take advantage of a lot of these shots where you're getting him open downfield. And as I've tried to point out, you don't have many routes you're running with him right now. You're running just goes, you're running posts, you're running a corner here. Thank you so much, James Fowler. Sending love just because we love
We're
you and every
sending love
person that's
back.
in here. Yeah, like that's fantastic. That's sweet as
Thank
hell.
you.
But yeah, this Marvin Mims kind of just like again, this isn't through any fault of his own. This is kind of who he was when he was coming out, and this is what you drafted him to be. He's limited as a route runner. You're not having him do a ton of different things, and sadly, this offense just doesn't have the ability to take advantage of a lot of this stuff. But as I pointed out, that doesn't mean he's not doing his job fine. Like there was a play they called this game. I don't think it was one that I ended up writing down where they ran that little like straight up. It was almost like a downfield screen where they just had like four guys almost run like wheels, but they were just all like going out as blockers, and they had Marvin Mims just run the shallow. And it was a pretty cool concept. And it's gonna be really funny when that play comes up later if I actually did end up putting it in here. But like I have a hard time whenever I watch Marvin Mims being like, oh man, like why isn't he getting, more usage? I kind of understand it. Is it a little frustrating because of the usage that the capital they used to get him? Sure. But I'm kind of one of those people that's also just like, let's give him more time. It seems like the offense isn't really where we'd like it to be able to utilize him in the first place. And yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. And for as much as I have been one of the people that we need to see Marvin Mims more on the field, my reasoning is more so because of what he can do schematically.
Yeah.
Just by having him, a lot of the things that he can open up by just being on the field and by being this vertical threat and running these vertical stems at guys, that's my reasoning for having him on the field. But a lot of the people that want him to go out and catch 4 catches for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's where we're a little off base because to this point, Mims has only really shown that he can consistently run, I want to say 3-4 routes, and the one that we just saw is one of them. And I want to say that's fine for his caliber of player so far in his career, like his archetype. That's fine. Maybe you want to see him. Well, no, not maybe. Definitely, you want to see him a little bit more, you know, efficient underneath, especially because of his size and his skill set. You definitely want him to be one of those more dynamic yak guys. But I mean, he's really you're only going to see him on the go, the deep post, the deep corner, those little shallows where he has an escort in front of him, like you mentioned. I mean, that's all he's really limited to at this point.
And it seems like there'll be a red zone set for him as well. Like, again, it's just give him time. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of it. It's like, I think people are a little bit like, I don't know. And I completely agree with what you're saying. We're like, it's more about the production, which is what I'm talking about. Like usage, I agree. They need to figure out ways to kind of get him on the field more because he does open up stuff underneath, as we've talked about a lot. But like, at the end of the day, am not going to be upset if like this is just not a guy this year they're able to get that much, production out of.
Right. 100% agree.
This is the one. Such a great design here. You walk through this one.
Very good design. I mean, so you're going to get the play action, and it's going to be a run action. So you're getting that minors coming across the formation, which is just going to bring those linebackers down more. And they get good pull on that play action, and those linebackers do come down. And I mean, even just going before that, they come out in a heavy formation to get the Steelers to come out in base and to get slower players defensively on the field. And it works. I mean, we talked a lot about the get off earlier in this episode with Pat, but look at the get off here. I mean, they drop these linebackers down, and look how quickly Sutton gets to the second level and past the second level. They pull down those defenders with the play action, and you get Adkins who's running that corner route. And I mean, like, again, you can have designs as good as you want them. You can pull down as many players as you want. You can scheme as many players open as you want. But at some point, the players that are on the field have to make a damn play. And I mean, this is one of the better balls that you're going to see Bo Nix throw. I mean, like I saw someone argue with me that this ball needed to be more towards the sideline. No, like maybe ideally, maybe it would look better aesthetically, but this ball is right on Adkins. He's a tight end. Yeah, he's a primarily blocking tight end, but the reason he's not a lineman or a fullback is because he can run these routes and he has to have some athletic ability. The ball goes through his hands. I don't know how you can expect Nix to make a better throw than he did here.
Yeah. I also want to play a good chip from Javonte Williams. I do like Javonte as a pass blocker this year. He's been doing a pretty good job. I mean, it's not much, but they were doing a pretty good job of just designing up some protection. But like, yeah, man, I get it. It's just, again, so funny. We're like that. We were talking about that red zone play. It's a consensus. Like, this is everybody else's fault. But then this one, it's like, oh, man, bad throw by Nix. Where it's, again, like, man, Dante Jackson's in, like, decent position here to recover and make a play, but the ball is kind of perfectly thrown between the corner and the safety. You just need your guy to actually, like, grab the ball that's in the air right there. And there were a few of these this game by the entire tight end room. So it's kind of like, what do we even do at this point? Who do we throw passes to in this room?
Exactly.
And just like, yeah, man, again, I don't think Mike Tomlin walked away from this game and be like, oh, man, Sean Payton lost it. Just like, oh,
at all, man.
Like, dude, he's probably looking at this like, whoo, like, thank God that one didn't land. Like, because that was another one of these, just like, that's a big punch. Like, that's a 30-yard gain on a third. I get that it's 13-0 still, but like, just frustrating.
And going back to the earlier point, I mean, a lot of people complain about one thing, but when the other thing happens, they completely forget about the first thing that they said. And what I mean by that is, on that play, a lot of people complain about how there's players in to do certain things that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. And on one hand, I agree, and so does Sean Payton. He said that he's going to take a look on what they're asking who to do what. But I mean, they're at midfield. They're in, I marked it down as 12 personnel. Atkins, it's hard because technically he's a tight end and a fullback. So, you never know if it's 21, 22, or 12 personnel. But they're in 12 personnel. We complain that they have all of these tells to where whenever they're under center, it's 90% going to be a run. I agree. But when we're on these heavier formations and we get to a pass, we can't complain that these heavier bodies are the ones that are getting these targets. We can't run 100% of the time out of these formations because we're going to get those tells, those obvious tells that the defense knows is going to be a run, and we're still going to complain about it. So we can't complain about these heavier targets being on the field because we can't be one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I'd also say, too, I mean, there's a lot of people that will probably be like, oh, like, why isn't Dulcich in? Guys, teams kind of don't respect Dulcich as, like, an actual tight end.
At all.
Like, yeah, like, he's a glorified wide receiver. And that's, like, again, like, you're kind of, it's like basketball where it's like your position's decided by who guards you. Corners guard Greg Dulcich. Safeties guard Greg Dulcich. You don't normally, like, coverage linebackers. You're not seeing, like, TJ Watt really drop on Greg Dulcich or something like that. Like, that's not happening. So, like, yeah, I get it'd be nice to be able to, like, oh, let's throw teams off. But it's like, it's a tell when Greg Dulcich is in the game, because as much as it'd be nice, the only way to really use him in the running game is if you're going to have him on a ton of motion, which they've done this season. And guess what? The running game still sucks. So it's kind of like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place most of the time. And again, this is kind of the best thing you can do, where this is their run formation. The Steelers think you are running the ball. You have Troutman and Adkins. You got your two best run blocking receivers in tight. Actually, little Jordan Humphrey's not in the game, but these are two very good run blocking receivers. We're coming downhill at you, like you said. We're running the run pass protection here. They are biting here. We can't sit here and be like, "What's this personnel package?" When it's like, this worked. We did it. We used a tendency breaker against them, but then it's like, oh, but this isn't the right tendency breaker because it didn't work. And it's like, yeah,
Exactly. And I mean, going back to your point on Dulcich, there has not been, like, I don't want to say a single snap, and I don't want to rag on the guy, but I don't think there's been a single snap in his career so far where you are comfortable having that guy line up in line at all. Like, he can just not work from inline. He is, at this point, a glorified big slot. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean, like, he is, I don't think he's as dynamic as he's been led on by a lot of people at all. And I think this game showcased a lot of that. But he is a glorified big slot at tight end. And, he can be a mismatch nightmare for some of these guys. But I just don't think he's as dynamic as he's been led on.
And I think it's important to keep in mind, like, that's kind of that's what his draft profile looked like. Like, that was kind of like, he was meant to be kind of one of these guys who could split out. Like, his comp was like a Mike Gesicki. And we have to remember, he was drafted by Nathaniel Hackett's staff that probably would not, and this is trying to praise Nathaniel Hackett at all, but like, he would kind of use a tight end more like that when you're talking about what the Shanahan style offense would look like. That, and I get a lot of people are probably going to hear that and be like, well, then why isn't Sean Payton doing it? But it's like, they were able to run multiple tight end sets because Nathaniel Hackett was able to invest in the tight end position. This team, again, doesn't really have a lot of resources to spend, and the pieces they've been able to put into the tight end room just kind of aren't able to make plays. And again, as much as I'd love to complain that Chris Manhertzen's still here, he's not solving the problems. Everybody wants, what's his name, Donald Parham to be the solution. Guys, I think there's a reason he's probably been on practice squads the last couple of years. As much, and again, like, I think this is me trying to beat up on guys. Like, that's kind of been the case for a lot of guys in Denver. Like, we get sad when they get let go, but it's kind of like they don't end up making names for themselves when they end up leaving. So it's like, I think the coaching staff probably made a right decision, not necessarily not giving them snaps. And it's not me directing. That sounded probably like I'm trying to talk about Tim Patrick, which is not at all. But more so just like guys like
I will.
Donald Parham.
I mean, like, I don't want to listen. People are not going to be happy with this, but I mean,
You're right.
People are saying like they should not have gotten rid of Tim Patrick because of the issues they're seeing in the receiver room. Like, guys, Patrick is fighting for snaps right now in the Detroit room, who just lost Josh Reynolds. I don't think they're missing much, and I don't want to say it to rag on Tim Patrick, the player, because he was really good. But Tim Patrick is not going to solve the issues on this offense because it's so much deeper than a wide receiver 2 or maybe 3. Like, it's so much deeper than that.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's like we can all argue, but a lot of these guys that they've had to kind of play this year, again, because of where they're at contract wise and with their salary cap, it's like, who would you rather have from your practice squad options? And it's like, yeah, man, when you're deciding that, like, you're not really going to have a lot of great solutions.
Exactly.
So this was the one I realized was actually like a read later on, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, oh, nice. They did do this a little more than I thought. Oh, no, maybe I'm capping. I don't know. This is one I'm just like, again, guys, Julio's the best option when we're talking about actually running between the tackles or just kind of running the football. And like, that's not me trying to beat on anyone in particular, but this is a guy that will actually like make a man miss early on and usually hits the right gap. And yeah. You have anything written down for this one?
It's not I don't know if it's just my screen, but it's not up.
I'm an idiot. That's my bad.
No, you're good. I was like, oh shit, did I fuck up? Is my shit frozen?
That's the first time I've been pretty good about like swapping them back and forth.
You've been perfect.
Yeah, this one's just we've got a little bit of explosiveness in this room, but it's so little.
Yeah, I mean, this is a nice run. This is one of the few gun duo snaps that they ran. I mean, one of the very few. They did it a little bit last year, but
So do
actually,
you think this is straight to, or do you think there is like a read in this, like a read option at all? I mean, it is, yeah, my question. Do you
I
think there's an
think
option for Knicks to keep here?
that's a zone read there. I was wrong on duo. That's
No,
not
you're good. That was one that I wrote down when I rewatched. Because at
yeah,
first I wrote down the same thing where I was like, oh, nice rep Jaleel. And then I was like, again, I'm trying to go back and be like, oh, are there things I wasn't realizing? There was more QB
right,
run game than I gave them credit for. Obviously, you would like, I would still like more. But from what we've
right.
seen, they ran lead read in the red zone. They ran another zone read here between the 40s. Hard for me to complain there when they're actually doing it right in front of me,
Yeah. I mean that was a really nice cut by Jaleel.
Yeah, it is. Dude, Jaleel's so fun. Like,
He is.
actually a very I think that he's one of the players that will actually see like when we and I'm not trying to call him like a building block or whatsoever because I'm not trying to act like he's an elite player, but as far as like who I can see continuing to get reps next year still in this running back room, he's definitely a guy that I think like he's gonna have a role. Like he's
Right.
useful, he's not on a big contract. Seems like he protects the ball well, and again, like we see him used all over the place.
I agree. And I remember on one of our earlier episodes coming into the season, I was wrong on him. I really was. I thought he was a guy who was pretty one-dimensional, only going to be a guy who can run outside of the tackles. And even on a play just like that, the run was designed to go inside of the tackles, and he still broke it outside, which isn't a negative thing. Like he took an inside the tackle run, found an angle, and got, I mean, what was it, 5, 6 yards there? I mean,
Yep.
that's something that he wasn't doing last season, and that's something that we started to see him do in preseason, and what made me change my opinion on him.
Yeah, and he's pass blocking a little bit, and again, like they're
Yeah,
using him a lot on these motions to kind of get themselves tells.
he's
And
getting
again,
dirty.
yeah, no, he's a fun guy. Fun guy. I think I had this one just because it was a bad Quinn rep.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's really it's so weird.
I just don't know what's going on.
It's so weird. And it's a point I want to hear you make the point because you sent it to the group chat earlier, and it's such a good point that yes, the coaching could be better. But how much better can the coaching be if we're seeing players who were great last year take a step back this year in the
Yeah,
same exact coaching staff? So I
yeah,
want to hear
that's
you make that point and elaborate
because
on
yeah,
it because
man.
it
I
was
mean,
such a
that's
good
such a big
point.
part about it. Is like, dude, like that was the big selling point about this season, and why a big reason I was so excited was we got to have year 2 of this system being put in place. We kept the same staff. We only added to it. Like again, I'm not trying to act like, but Pete Carmichael and Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi getting to work together again was supposed to be so successful. I really liked what we've seen out of Zach Strief so far. I'm a little like, it makes me a little like, because like again, I was really sitting here like, man, I think we found like a good offensive line coach from what we've seen in the preseason from backup guys, from what we've seen when guys had to fill in. They usually do a pretty like serviceable job. I thought like again, like they've just done a lot with their offensive line that I've liked. Kiri Colbert, as we've talked about, as a receiver coach that we've liked. I thought we saw some like exciting things from the receiver room last year. It's just very interesting to me that like it seems like it's just kind of going in the wrong direction, but we've kept a lot of the same pieces where while I want to put a lot of this on the coaching staff, again, they do need to be held accountable at some point. It's kind of like, again, as we keep saying, these guys need to make plays. We're begging these guys. Like Quinn just got a huge contract. This isn't me trying to be like, oh, you're making too much to be playing like this. But it's kind of like a little bit like, yeah, dude, like you're a top 4 guard. We can't have you getting beat every single time they're running a third down pressure. Like we need at least you to be the guy that's holding up one-on-one because you're getting paid like that. Or you need to be absolutely blasting holes open in the run game, which we're not seeing consistently enough at all.
At all, man. Really at all. And man, that's such a brutal rep from such a great player. And I mean,
Yeah,
it's weird, man.
it's weird. Whatever, we're on to the next one. Nice little run after catch from Javante right there. We got next 51. Oh, so that was to get us set up for this 4th and 6. So that was a 3rd and 20.
Right.
So I will say once again, we got Nix just kind of hitting the sink, giving it to his guy. Thank God Sean Payton went for this. I will say, like, again, I know a lot of people were complaining. Though, I do kind of want to say, like, because I went back and, like, looked at, like, all the charts that were showing the percentages. And this is going to sound so, like, homerism for Sean Payton. But, like, the win-loss percentages on a lot of, like, should he have gone for an onside? Like, this is like, oh, man, you get, like, 21%. Or, like, some of them were, like 14.2% versus, like, 13.5%. And so I'll be like, all right, like, don't get me wrong. There's got to be some variability of, like, guys, the offense has been shit. Like, I would love it if I felt confident in them getting a 4th and 6, like they did do once or twice, but I don't. Whereas the or the defense has been really good. So as much as everybody wanted to be like, Sean Payton made the wrong decision, at the end of the day, hey, man, he did get the ball left with, like, a couple plays left. It's probably like, what, 15 seconds away from, like, hey, man, maybe we can make something happen. Like, I'm not trying to defend him at all and say, like, he made the right decision, but it feels like it's getting a little bit overblown when it's kind of like, dude, end of the day, like, the offense wasn't doing anything. To keep them on the field was risky. It seems like even though it might have been the wrong analytical decision, the defense did end up making a few quality stands at the end of the game. Like, I had a hard time being like, this is like a fireable offense. I'm not happy about it. I do think that it needed to be questioned about. But once I went back and, like, saw, like, what was it, the surrender index and all that stuff, like, there was a discrepancy, but it was like under a full percent or sometimes like just a percent of, like, oh, you're winning. And I want to be like, okay, like, whatever. I think there needs to be a little bit of understanding of what the team was actually doing in the game.
Right. I mean, I agree.
'Cause,
This was a
yeah,
nice play here. You see them. This is one of the. I mean, this might be their only sim pressure of the day. And I mean, it wasn't necessarily a sim pressure because they brought actual pressure, but they mugged up the line of scrimmage and then they dropped some guys out and brought some guys from the opposite side. And they didn't really do that much at all that game. I think this was the first time. And it was really nice to see Bo read that and replace that with the throw. So you see Queen, he's sprinting back to get to where those guys are coming with the pressure. So he's trying to get there and fill that void, and then Bo just goes across from that where all that area is voided.
Yeah, no, I thought this was really good eyes from Bo. I also felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm tripping. It felt like Josh Reynolds did a really good job of feeling out the space here and kind of shortening up his route a little bit to kind of give him this
100%.
extra little piece of grass, Like, this is a good thing. You want your smart receivers to be able to do this in space against zone, Obviously, you need a guy that can make plays after the catch, but if you're up here, it's going to be a lot harder when you have this guy coming downhill on you, whereas this guy is able to kind of make a play more in space.
100%.
And, yeah, Josh Reynolds, man, been a good signing so far.
Pretty damn good signing. He might be, like, so far the lone bright spot on this offense.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, it's so like this. I put out, like, I mean, I've been thinking kind of like last year we had guys who were like, this guy's having a good season at least, like we could be like, this guy's having a good season. Through 2 games, it's hard to really say anyone on the offensive side of the ball is having a good season, like It's tough out here. I just want to point out Alex Highsmith, really good spin move. This is a really good spin move on Ben Powers. But he has a really good spin move, like, overall, is what I was. But,
oh, man.
And, yeah, really good overload on the left side here. I mean, honestly, this is decently picked up by Denver to not just, like, I mean, not really, to be honest. I mean, I guess it's really like a throw within 2.5 seconds. But, man, this could have gotten nasty. But, yeah, good job to replace the blitz. And, yeah, we got a first down. Oh, we're getting close here, people. We're getting close. What was that? Oh, God. It's terrible. I keep losing track. This was like a weird system to be able to do this. I just have this numbered out of 74, so then I kind of have to, like... Oh, God. Dead air. Da-da-da-da-da. I think we go to the next play. I'm just completely guessing at this point. We're off the rails. It's an hour 52 in.
How many plays are left in general?
52. So we've got 5, I believe.
Okay.
I think this is play 52, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Oh, this was the one that I also... Yeah. But I was curious about this one because I want to know what you think about what the run, like, design look is. because I can't tell if this is one where like he definitely should be cutting back or if I'm just tripping. Like he should definitely be cutting back, right? Or is there like, is this supposed to just like wrap around the outside seal right here? It just feels so tough because again, I feel like you'd have Josh Reynolds doing something again, and like this isn't me trying to talk shit. I don't think your design of your run offense should be based around Greg Dulcich blocking TJ Watt. That's just me. That's just me trying to make, that, and I don't even think that's a slight. I wouldn't base my running offense most of the time around running off tackle around a tight end on TJ Watt. So yeah.
No, I mean, that's got to be a cutback. I mean, it's just zone. You're either following the play, you're hitting it up, you're bouncing it up towards the A gap, or you're cutting back there. Those are 3 reads on zone. You got to cut that one back. I mean,
so always one of
they've
those that
got
like
no help there.
this is me trying to be mean. It's one of those that looks so bad that I kind of hoped it was like just some like, oh, maybe they're running like
Right.
some kind of like wind back or something where he is supposed to bounce this outside, but like, nah, man.
Yeah.
I will say, I almost wonder if like, nah. He just paths this outside right away, and I don't know if it's just because again, like, I don't know if he's just seeing this safety and he's like, I'm gonna go hit the shit out of this guy.
Right.
I don't understand, man. I don't understand why he doesn't just avoid the contact. A coach mentioned today, like running zone is like riding a wave. Javonte just is riding into the rocks every single time. He's just a dangerous surfer, man. And again, we get Quinn just putting guys in the dirt. But like, man, like look at the cutback lane here. And it's just like he just doesn't feel it at all. It looks like he looks for contact. And this is something I will say, like, I do want to put on Sean a little bit more. I do wonder if they had Audric Estime, if it'd be a little bit different. But like, dude, just stop doing it. Stop giving him these kinds of runs. This isn't me trying to like beat up on the guy because again, it looks like you're getting the openings. It seems like this might kind of be the way the offensive line wants to move right now. But dude, just duo, winebacks, counters, powers. Yeah. Just give him, hey, you're hitting this lane. Don't even give him the option because as much as it sucks, he just doesn't seem to have the capability to know, like, I need to be making the explosive cut back here. And sadly, we don't really know if he has, like, that explosive short area quickness to even make those kind of cuts anymore,
Right.
Like, and this was, sorry, I got one more point just on Javonte.
No, you're good.
Is like, and this is going to sound sad, and this is me trying to beat up at him up because, again, devastating knee injury. But when I was watching the Jets game last night, it was hard watching Breece Hall, who had, I don't remember exactly, but I want to say Breece Hall had a similar knee injury. And man, Breece Hall still has some goddamn explosiveness. And again, I'm not trying to compare the two. Breece Hall is probably like a top 5 back, top 10 back in the league right now. Javonte isn't necessarily meant to be back that. But when you watch a guy like Breece Hall burst through a hole, and then I come back and watch these Broncos tapes and I see open lanes and I see Javonte just seemingly just kind of trudge his way right into a tackle, it's a little hard not to be a little bit like, man, I don't know if they can really do this. I don't know if like there's really a world where Javonte's being like a true like lead back, even if you're talking about in a committee, a guy that is like your lead running back in that room. I don't know if that world exists anymore, which is really disheartening because again, he was off to a really special start to his career. I hope he can get back to that point.
No, I mean, listen, they just got to keep spamming the dive plays that they've been doing all year. That's just all they've got to be doing. It's just basic dive, Madden dive. It's all it is.
It's so funny because again, I would like them to run more dive. Just go, just run. You built this team to try to do that. Just do it. But they're doing it too much, I guess. We haven't watched 4 hours of them running tosses out of different formations. We have them running RPO looks, read looks. We have them running wind backs, all this different type. We had the quarterback draws. They ran the pump draw last week. Yeah, none of that exists, guys. We haven't broken out all of that right in front of you all. Didn't happen. They're just running dive on repeat.
Just because it hits the A gap, it's automatically a dive. That's just
he's
football,
just running
folks.
coach suggestions. Yeah, so this one frustrated me. I had this one because we've kind of seen a couple examples of this where Bo needs to kind of help out his pocket a little bit more. Sometimes I think this one frustrated me because, one, either A, I didn't like the design, or B, Bo needs to know where his receivers are on the field because I don't like that he's like, again, I don't think you want to break out here, sure, but like there's just nothing over here for him to even work towards. Which just kind of sucks because, again, while there's a flash of color, Quinn actually does do a pretty decent job recovering on this and getting TJ Watt out of the play. Like, I think he's just kind of seeing the color a bit too early.
I mean, all the routes in this play work towards the opposite side where he's breaking. It
Exactly.
just doesn't make any like you have the dig that comes open, you have the blaze out from the slot that comes open. Why I understand if you see the flash of color, but why are you breaking out there and then keeping your eyes downfield as if there's something that's going to be there downfield? Like if you're going to break out like that, then make the decision to take off and scramble.
And this is one I'd love to be like, oh, the receivers need to do more from. But again, it's just kind of like, no, dude, you need to know what's happening on the field. And again, as much as I want to be like, oh, he's had so many hits already, it's like, nah, dude, like this is a good. They dedicated, as we've stated, a lot towards TJ Watt this game. Oh, please work. It'd be hilarious. There we go. They've dedicated a lot towards TJ Watt this game, as we'll see right here, as they give him the little this. But they're running, a stunt. Quinn does a really good job recovering. He completely takes TJ Watt out of the play. Dude, just relax. It's one of those plays where, again, he doesn't need to always go right into 100 miles per hour mode. Like, bro, drop down to 30. Go through your gears first. Let's get to first gear and just, okay, I'll move. I don't need to sprint out. Let me just move in the pocket because, again, you take a slight step right here, you got an opening. You can at least try to make the throw right here. At least just step in and make a toss. Instead, you're putting your tackle in a bad situation, as we've seen him do multiple times. And, again, McGlinchey needs to not hold, I guess. But it's kind of like, dude, you're setting your guy up for failure here by breaking outside of him when he's not expecting you to.
Exactly. I mean, no, you're 100% right.
This is a nice double stunt look here by the Steelers. Oh, such good defenses through 3 weeks, which is fun to watch. It's frustrating, but it is like, oh, nice.
I know oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
I was just saying, I know I talked shit a little bit earlier about Dulcet's playing on the line of scrimmage, and he's not technically on the line of scrimmage here, or maybe he is, but he had a pretty nice chip to TJ there before getting off into his route, so I want to give him the credit there, so it's not just like I'm just digging on the guy.
I really wanted to see if he would catch this. Oh, that would have been sweet by Malcolm Roach.
What a shot.
Right? I'm glad they kept it going that long.
Right. I know.
Let's get to the next one here. That was 59. Next play. Oh yeah, man. All right, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here, folks. This is our final 2 plays. It's been 2 hours. Thank you all for popping in. We've got 4:30 in the chat still. This is fantastic of you all. Thank you. But yeah, final 2. Oh. So much Hank.
Yeah.
So much Hank. Little Jordan Humphrey's such an underrated rat guy.
Very
it will be
underrated.
until the end. And it's not like, I'm not trying to say he's good, but it's like you'd probably expect him to be as, how do I say this? Like if there was a star rating, you'd probably expect him to be a 1 star or maybe a half star. He's a 2.5 star. Not great, but it's there, you can do something with a 2.5 star. And you see it, again, we saw it on that last long touchdown against the Chargers last season, who were a horrible tackling defense. We see it on this play here, and I think even on the next play, he ends up having a nice one.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably my favorite Knicks rep of the day, and it's a lot clearer from the end zone angle. You can see him get pressure, and he's going to slide and do that little shuffle that he does in the pocket to find himself a clean base. But while he's doing that, he's also reading Lil Jordan Humphrey, and he's waiting to put the ball on him to replace that pressure. And, ideally, you would want to see him stay square and stay with a firm base as he's shuffling to find a clean base and a clean spot in the pocket. But I mean, he still puts it on his guy. It ends up being, I believe this was a 3rd down. Ends up being a 3rd down conversion or a 2nd down.
This is a 1st and 10.
Okay, well, I'm just dumb as hell, but
you're fine. I didn't want to. That sounded like I was just like.
No, you're good. But ideally, you just want him to stay square as he's shuffling towards a clean area in the pocket. But it didn't end up mattering on this play, and he ended up putting it on Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah, it's so much Hank. I was a little interested. Should he be working outside here? Or is it just kind of against man? You just take your favorite matchup.
I think.
Because he's not really reading the squeeze here, but I mean, luckily, Lil Jordan Humphrey does a good job breaking this off and getting open. But yeah. I do remember looking at this from the end zone, being like, "Oof, he's lucky that because again, he's throwing a lot of these with anticipation. He throws a lot of them before guys get fully into their breaks, which is good. But again, when we have a receiver room like this that doesn't necessarily do a great job of getting themselves the most separation at times, it can be a little bad. But right here, he is a little lucky. This is actually a really nice route. Because he almost runs it like he's running a crosser.
And I want to say,
tag to something different.
That is a really nice route.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm not necessarily sure what the thought process is there working towards the middle to Lil Jordan, but I mean, ideally you'd want to work outside because you have those two corners and off coverage. So those curls and on Hank are going to be super out leveraged.
Yeah.
Or they're going to out leverage the off covers that the defenses are playing in. So ideally you want him to read outside in, but I mean, it didn't end up mattering on this play. So it'd be interesting to see what his thought process was to read this inside out as opposed to outside in.
I don't hate him seeing this corner's back or whatever
Right.
this guy is and just whipping it right at him. Now that I'm seeing that,
Right.
I'm a little bit like, okay, he knew that this guy was a little cooked, which is a positive sign. You know, again,
Right.
one of those things where like there are like, I don't want to say like, oh, like I see a path, like I'm, you know, what's his name from Dune, but I do kind of see a path. I think like I'm not saying he's going to be great, but I think the seeds are planted that like there can be a quarterbackable offense out of this. Again, you need to tap into more of the QB run game. We need to see the accuracy straight up step up. I'm not trying to pretend like we've seen enough so far, but I do think that the accuracy can get to a point where like you're at least be able to work with it, especially of a lot of these throw on the moves. Like I think a lot of these timing reps, as we've talked about, will hopefully eventually get there. I guess I don't want to act like that's a sure thing, but I think there can be a path for him to at least be startable. And that probably sounds like that's all I'm saying. Like again, he can be much more than that, but like from what I've seen, I think you can build an offense around this guy that is respectable. But yes, you are going to need some semblance of a running game, and he's going to need to be a big part of that. But I don't know, like again, I really hope that Sean Payton, like I didn't like Bo Nix as much as some other people, but I didn't like hate him. I thought he was like a top 50 prospect, but it was hard to look at him and like I don't know how, I'm a little concerned if Sean Payton looked at this guy and thought he was late career Breeze because Bo Nix is genuinely like he can move around. I do think that like kind of the dream offense for him is one of those where you get him outside the pocket, you have him throw these layered concepts as we've seen a lot in the past couple of weeks. But like there is part of me that again is a little scared as I watch the games where I'm just like, oh man, like Deshaun's like not really know the guy he's got here because like that's a little bit embarrassing, man, because this guy played a lot of college football. Like we like I'm not saying we know what he is based on what we saw, but like we kind of know what his traits are coming in. And again, I think we've seen quarterbacks not necessarily like him, but like I think you can build a Jalen Hurts-esque offense around Bo Nix. I don't know if it'll be as efficient because Jalen Hurts and that Eagles team was obviously a lot more loaded, but I think that's kind of the design, the what you'd hope to do with this thing.
Yeah, no, and I mean you're 100% right. He's laying the groundwork for at least a plausible drop back offense. I don't want to say that they're going to be, amazing there, but the groundwork is there. And I made a face while you were talking. I was not making that face of what you were saying. I was
No,
reading
you're
something
good.
in the chat, but
Is it the Let's Go Bears?
Yeah.
Who are
It
you?
threw me off a little bit there. But I mean, he's laying the groundwork for at least just a plausible drop back offense. Like he hasn't shown much to where, the 12th pick is all that, verified or justifiable is probably the better word to say. But I mean, it's 2 games. Like we're not really sure what he is yet. And no matter what the people who had preconceived notions about him during the draft process tell you, he is not a finished product, and he is nowhere close to being one. These 2 games are not I don't want to say they're not indicative of how the rest of his career are going to go, but a lot of people are using this as some sort of indictment on the rest of his career, and that's just not what it is.
So I can't lie, I don't have notes on some of these final plays, so I'm watching them. I'm trying to I'm like mentally being like, why did I take this one down? Good screen rep, I guess. Like nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't have the second interception that he threw because I was kind of like, we don't need to see.
Yeah.
End of the game, whatever. Yeah. All right. Well, we got any like final over? I'll read like what I've got for my like notes that I wrote down for the side plays. Let's go one by one. You got a couple of these?
For some of the plays, or
Just like
in general?
overarching notes, like any thoughts on the offense. I just got a couple written down that I thought from either. Okay, let's do this. My first thought, the jumbo personnel, like when they bring in Matt Pert, it's been horrendous. And I really don't know like why. It's again one of those things where it's just one of the cogs in the machine just isn't, it's just sputtering every single time, whether it's, it's just someone blowing a block every single time. But it's very frustrating to watch because, again, I was really hopeful that going from Quinn Bailey to Matt Pert would be a massive, addition for this offense. Not that it's going to be something that you're running like 30 times a game, but if you can get 5 snaps where you're just able to actually get downhill on a lot of these teams, I thought that would be a big help, and we have not seen that so far. So I'm a little sad about that. And again, I don't think it's Matt Pert's fault because every time I see Matt Pert on the field, he usually knocks the shit out of somebody. It's just then a receiver blows a block, tight end blows a block, one of the interior guys blows a block, and the play's dead. So that was my first note. What do you got?
No, I mean, a lot of it is just while I think a lot of these ideas that Sean Payton's offense is not going to work in the modern NFL, while I think that the idea that it's outdated or that the game is past them up, while I think they're, you know, just completely outlandish and not based on anything, I do think that there are some serious issues with this offense. I mean, the under center pass run splits are just outrageous, completely outrageous. They're running 90% of the time, passing 10% of the time. You cannot base an offense out of that. And I understand that this earlier in the season, you're putting looks out there so you can build constraint plays off of them later. But still, I mean, even just through 2 games, a 90-10% uh, run pass split is just not going to get you anywhere on the ground. And it hasn't gotten them anywhere on the ground. I mean, it's not on any one player. And I think a better indication of that than anything is the fact that both Javante and Jaleel are both, I want to say, they rank towards. I know Josh is in the chat. I got these stats from a tweet that he put out. If you could put them in the chat, that'd be great. But I think they're 40th and 37th in yards before contact, respectively. And they're also like 3rd and 8th in stuff percentage. So they're not getting any yards before contact, and they're getting hit as soon as they get the ball in the backfield. Both running backs. So it's not any one player. And I mean, a lot of that is the fact that they just have a huge tell when they go under center. And a lot of this offense has been under center.
No, I completely agree with that. I mean, the other thing I want to point out is just like, as much as it sucks to admit, teams don't have to respect the guys on the outside for Denver. They don't have to respect, sadly, at this point, the quarterback because he hasn't shown the capability to be able to push the ball. Like, we're getting the inside linebackers to move, but at the end of the day, like, teams are going to be able to load the box because there's nothing on the outside that they're really that concerned about. There's no guy that they're like, man, we got to make sure we have someone on this guy, or every play he could burn us for like a 60-yard touchdown. Like, Denver does not have really any of those options right now. So teams are just able to condense the hell out of them. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they do to kind of open it up. Again, I think there are answers, but then I kind of like, again, I really hope, like, not to, it's not a one trick solution, but the play action game is obviously something we want to see a lot more of. I put out a thing like only 20% of Bo Nix's dropbacks have been off play action. Excuse me. Kyler Murray is at like 37%, and that Arizona offense has been absolutely cooking, which, again, they have a little bit more options on the outside. Kyler Murray is obviously I don't want to say much better, but he's a much better quarterback than Bo Nix at this juncture. So they obviously have a lot more options, but you're able to give your quarterback a lot more easy buttons. But then I also, and this is kind of the other part of it, and again, you kind of need more numbers to get, an accurate analysis. Bo Nix is on 17 dropbacks, I believe. I think he has like a 47% completion percentage. He's thrown an interception. Like, I think his pressure rate is really bad under, but that's not really necessarily on him all the time, but sometimes it is. Like, as much as I want to be like lean into this stuff, which I do think they need to do, like, we just haven't really seen results on it outside of the quarterback run game. That they need to just do much more of. But we look back at the tape. I'm kind of like, man, I in my mind, I hope they run 5 to 8 designed quarterback runs a game. Maybe 8 is a little high, but like somewhere around there. I think we counted like 4, 5. Like,
Yeah.
they did it. I can't be upset at that point, especially in a game where the game script wasn't for them to run the ball. So I don't know, man. It might just be one of those things where we're just going to have to trudge through the season because they just don't have kind of the options. They don't have the ability to kind of go to this, go to this trick up their sleeve. There's nothing up their sleeve. They're shirtless at this point. They gambled their shirt on Russell Wilson. They're just standing here naked at the poker table. So yeah, Other little thought I got on here, open shots in the passing game was frustrating. Begging anyone on offense to make a play. I will say, I think I'm a little more than you. I'm scared of the misses we're seeing when he's setting his feet in the pocket. I know that they're timing misses. I feel it, but there are some where I'm a little like, man, like I hope that is not all timing, but mostly timing. Like I really hope you're not just like actually this inaccurate downfield, because that would be obviously a problem. Like if this guy's whole thing is like, we need to have a guy that can at least be on time and accurate, and the accurate part's gone, that's gonna be really worrisome to me. So I did have kind of like, man, I'm not like scared, but they're like what am I trying to say? The DEFCON level is probably at like a 1, and it's just like it's jiggling right there. It probably should be at like 2, but I'm gonna keep it at 1 for now, because again, there's been like 4 or 5, like true, like I set my feet. They might not have been lined up perfectly, but like this is as perfect of a pocket as I'm going to get. I have a throw. I'm not really going to count the Mims one, because again, that's a 55-yard bomb.
Right.
I'd love to see him hit it. If we'd hit that, we'd be going crazy. But like that one, I'm not going to really count. But it's the other ones where I'm just kind of like, oof, just a little bit like I need to see you hit a couple more of these before I'm sitting here being like, it's just timing he needs to figure out with the receivers. That would be my only thing. Josh said they were 47th and 50th for Javonte and Jaleel.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, there's only 32 teams in the NFL. So not great. Not great.
And he says it was
situation.
out of 50. So I believe that is Jaleel was dead last, and dead last. Sorry, and Javonte was 47 in yards before contact. So I mean, everything that could possibly go wrong has went wrong. Everything.
I think that's a great note to end the show on. Everything that has
Absolutely
gone
perfect.
wrong is going wrong, and they get to face Todd Bowles.
Oh yeah, it's only going to get better.
One little more point I will make about that Buccaneers game. Very excited to watch the cornerback room get to face like their best challenge of the early season. I mean, the Seattle receiver room is close, but Mike Evans is like probably one of the best receivers of our generation. Like true, like this guy is very, very, very good. Chris Godwin also very, very, very good and getting used very well in Liam Cohen's offense. They're a team that dices up man coverage because again, they just have so many big bodies. They're able to kind of intertwine with each other, and Vance Joseph runs a lot of man coverage. So it'll be very interesting. I'm hyped to get to see what Riley Moss gets to be able to do against this receiver room.
And Baker, not to cut you off, but I mean, it's 2 games, Jesus.
Yeah.
But Baker looks kind of like an MVP candidate.
Yeah. It's like a fun NFL season this year. I don't know, like there's some like special juice going on here. Like the rookies are all kind of like shit in the bed, which is really like scary for people that have the rookies. But as someone just kind of watched, I'm like, what the hell? Not that last night was Drake May at all. The Patriots, like, they also seem to have just kind of made their bed with, well, we took the quarterback, and it's like, okay, what else you got?
Right.
It's like, not much. It's like, oh shit. Well, hope you can figure that one out. Who's your head coach?
Real ball is back.
Defensive coordinator. Okay, real ball is back. That's so real. Watching J.K. Dobbins run has been electric, which again, not to bash on Javonte, but it is a little sad watching a guy like J.K. Dobbins make this recovery and be instantly back to being his incredible self. And we're still kind of waiting for Javonte a little bit, but any last thoughts before I sign us out?
No, I mean, it's just so disheartening to watch this offense the way it is. But I want to give some perspective. I mean, last season, going into week 3 and after week 3, a lot of people thought this team was going to be one of the worst teams that they've ever watched in the NFL. And I vividly remember arguing on Twitter that this team is not a top 3 pick team. And I still don't think that about this current roster.
I was like, what is that?
Yeah. Like, I remember people saying that it was going to be one of the worst defenses to ever play the sport of football. And I was like, well, I don't know about that. They've got some pieces. Well, they just got 70 put on them. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, but they're not going to get 70 put on them every game of the season. And they ended up having one of the most remarkable turnarounds defensively that this league has ever seen. And that is due, not entirely due, but a lot of that is due to coaching. And again, they have the same exact coaching staff. So I don't necessarily want to say that the season is over, because it's not. It's week 2. But while it doesn't look good, I just think it's important that we keep a lot of perspective here.
100%. I think that's a great note to end it out on. I've been Frankie's Film for Let's Talk Broncos. My co-host here,
Robby NFL.
I'm sorry. There's got to be whatever. Thank you guys all for tuning in. 444 of you. We absolutely love you all so much. Leave us likes and subscribes, or just have a great Friday night, whatever you're trying to do. And yeah, thank you guys for being in here for another 2 hour and 18-minute episode of Full Field Read. God, it's never gonna end. Someday. I really thought I went so slow for the. Oh wait, is it still going? I hit end stream.